Hi, and we're live. Welcome to another episode of the State of Emergency podcast. This is your host, Steve, and I'm with my main man, Jorge. Uh, this is episode number. What the fuck episode are we on? Seven, I think. Episode seven? No, episode eight. We're on episode eight, man. How are you doing, man? Welcome back to the
And
studio.
yeah, pretty good, but kind of busy.
Yeah, nice.
So been here and there everywhere. So now we're back.
Yeah, it's been a
Back in the
while since we've done a
studio.
podcast.
You feel strong?
Yeah,
Uh,
man. I mean, uh, what does it take for you to get into podcast mode? I mean, because it's been 2 weeks since we did the last podcast, I think. So what's been going on in the last 2 weeks? So I think we're
so
experiencing some we're experiencing some kind of technical difficulties, man. But never mind. So
I
we
know. Well, they try to find it where we broadcasting from. I think so they can fire the missile up my ass. I guess.
I guess so. So what do you do? What do you get? What do you do when you get into? How do you get into podcast mode, man?
Yeah, like I said, we got cut off, but
Yeah,
I like to be in my home studio, so it's like more comfy.
sure.
Then, taking on the road, it's okay, we can do it, but it's like we can keep up the schedule. So
It, it's
that's
it it's hard to be in podcast mode because it's hard to get into the mindset of how podcasts work. Do you know what I mean?
right. Hmm.
Because you have to relearn, when you can take breaks and you don't have to talk all the time. And
Exactly. So it's like once we get going, it's all right when we do it even. But if I'm not in home studio, then it's kind of difficult.
yeah, I know.
So
Yeah, it's especially hard to get into podcast mode when you're like on the go all the time.
right. Yeah.
Uh, so since the last time you've been on the podcast, man, 2 weeks. I think the
Is
last
that
episode
right?
we did was
Yeah.
2 weeks ago.
Wow.
Dude,
Mhm.
lots of stuff happened in the last couple of
Oh
weeks.
shit, I know. So
Dude, how do you keep up with all this stuff that's been happening?
I know it's terrible. Yeah. You don't know what to pick, what to do, but we'll give people some good ideas what they should listen to and how this works.
Yeah,
That's good.
man. I mean, dude, but how do you even, I was just thinking about it. If we missed 2 weeks if it's been 2 weeks since our last podcast and so much has been happening, how do you keep up with current events as much as possible if you and try to discuss it if every day something new happens?
I know that. Yeah, it's very difficult, and then you figure out what you're supposed to do and who to vote for and who to do with, and he's just been talking about these elections here and stuff. But I mean, like you listen to these people, and if you think of it, like you have 200 parties here, and every candidate has something right to say.
Sure.
Okay, so you can say, well, he's right, but this guy's also right. This guy's also right. This guy has something right. Well, he's okay. This guy is right, but it's the place where they are wrong. You have to kind of find out what they don't talking about. course, it's a good education for children. Everybody has to get health care and get a good health and get this and get that. All those old stories, but you have to find out where they're wrong, whatever they're piling on, which is not right. That's what
Sure.
people have to be kind of worried about. Well, this guy is right. He said something right. Yeah, everybody said something right, but it's the problem what they say wrong.
I think,
You know,
I think what happens is that there's a lot of things where it's hard for people because information flows so freely now, which is a great thing, right? But I think people get kind of lost in that kind of arena where they can't
right,
differentiate between what is right about these people saying and what is wrong about what
right,
other people are
exactly.
saying.
And most of the people listening, like something what they hear something and says, "Oh, this is right." But what is wrong? What is it that he's saying wrong? He pile like something to get your klobasa going. He gives you klobaska, he gives you donuts, he gives you coffee, he gives you beer. Okay, that's the honey. But what is wrong behind it? What is he catching on you? That's the hard. That's what people forget to select.
Well, I think what starts it for me is what's wrong is that the person has to offer you these things to be able to get his voice heard. That's a red flag for me. So, for
Huh?
example, if somebody's saying to me, okay, so you get a free beer or something, or I'll give you these donuts, and then you can listen to what I'm going to say. I think for me that's already a red flag. I mean, if you think about it in a weird
Yeah.
way, why does that person have to offer you these free things in order for you to listen to them? Do you know what I mean?
Mhm. But the things the majority of population are like this, honey, looking and licking and juicing and eating before they start thinking.
Right. Yeah.
So that's why they doing that. That's why they doing that because it's a major part of their bullshit.
So, like for me, I think what happens is, uh, like, okay, so here's a like in a movie, right? For example, The Other Guys. The Other Guys is a movie starring Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg, sorry. And they're two cops in New York, right? And they're investigating a crime. And the guy, the main kind of villain, offers them like he's calm in his interview, right? And
Mhm.
he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry that I committed this crime, but I'll offer you courtside tickets to this basketball game," right? And when they get to the basketball game, they realize halfway into the game that they were bribed and
Yeah,
that they were taken advantage of, right?
sure.
I know it's a comedy, but
Right.
but going back to your point is I think that after these people get their beer, their free klobasa, their free whatever it is, that afterwards they start to realize that, hey, wait a minute, I've been tricked into something that I didn't really want.
Yeah, right.
And I think at that point it's too late, right? So going
Exactly.
back to the movie, they realize that they've been bribed, but they can't really charge the villain with bribing a federal officer
Right.
because they didn't even realize that they were being bribed in the first
It's
place.
it's already happened.
Exactly.
You
And
know.
yeah, and they took it and enjoyed it. So I think
Right.
my point is I think that the people take these things and then they realize afterwards that their actions, uh, their decisions weren't really correct.
Yeah. But
I
it's
think that
hard to
happened.
hard to explain people that you have to listen everything and kind of get deep into it what these people really saying. But for regular people, you have to be involved like 100%, like 24/7 in this kind of nonsense. And a lot of people cannot really do that and don't want to do that. They don't have a time. They cannot be subject to this. It's just you will have to be involved in it, and that's what and they know that, and that's why they take
Sure.
you. They know you cannot look at all this thing and sift it through because you don't have the time. You just don't care. This guy saying something good, and on the top he gives you donuts. Oh, you my man, right? And that's what
Right.
happened.
Right, exactly. Because I think it's and see, I think that's the disconnect, right? Because I think people
Mhm.
care about politics, but they don't have enough time in their daily lives to worry about it. For
Right,
example, if you're a professional right, a politician, you're dealing with politics all day, every day. So you're deep into it all the time. Or if you're a political analyst, you're
right,
involved with it all
sure,
the time. But if your job doesn't involve that and you're just like trying to provide for your family or provide for yourself and or provide, making payments on things, you're focused on it, but that's not where your 100% focus is, right? So I think I
right,
think the I think the gullibility where people are gullible is in that disconnect, really, right? Because you're in this position where you're kind of focused on politics, but you don't really, I wouldn't say you don't care about it, but you can't focus all your energy on it. So there's like a overlap of caring, so there's like a point where you're like, somebody's saying something, some bullshit, and you're not disagreeing with it, then all of a sudden you meet in the middle, then overlaps, and then you forget about what that person is saying. And that's, I think, where people get taken. I really don't think, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think it's because people are uh, gullible in that way. I think it's because their attention is elsewhere and they can't focus so much on what these politicians are doing. So that's where they get taken. Do you know what I mean? If that makes
right,
sense,
sure.
right? Because if you listen to people who are political analysts,
Yeah, because they're professional. You're dealing with professional, right?
right, right,
Right.
they're professionals. So
You know,
these
they
professionals, they don't get taken because they're
they're
they're following it
professionals,
up.
right?
Right,
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 exactly. And they can take you because it's just like labs. As I tell you, your pipe is leaking. I don't see anything leaking. Oh, it's leaking. It's leaking up in the attic. Come and look at it. I already drilled a hole in it, so it's leaking, and I have to fix it, right? So,
right,
whatever it's leaking or not leaking, whatever I make the hole in it or didn't, it's leaking. So how do you know? You don't know
sure,
it.
right,
So because you just know there's a problem. So they taking advantage. They not honest people. That's all it's to it. Some of them may
no,
be,
definitely,
but most of them are not. They're not honest people. They're doing
yeah,
it. Most of these politicians are in it for their own brand, like
right,
anything else, because it's a job. It's a job, so he needs to make as much money out of it like anybody else, like a plumber, electrician, or carpenter, or whatever politician. He needs to make money. That's what he's there, and he do everything, whatever it takes to do that. That's how you have to
sure.
deal with these people.
So do you
They
think
are
that
just, yeah.
so let's look at a person who's like been in politics for their whole lives. Do you think that it's
Biden.
a, for example, Biden, right? Okay. So for you, because I'm not so sure. I want to ask you, do you think that it's a power, do you think it's a position of he's looking for power or he's looking for greatness?
Well, I think after, guy like him who's in there for all these years, he just want to top his career. Right now, no, he's this sick individual, so he doesn't know what he's talking about. So that's kind of a bad for him. It's not that very good example. But I think most of these politicians
Right.
try to topple it off with something like anybody else, right? If you're not like a soldier and cleaning cannon, so then and you gotta make it up to general, 4-star general, why not do that, right? And you will
Right.
he will do whatever it takes to do that. And and also it's gonna take a great years to be in service to doing that, you know. But once you get that offer, I mean, you're gonna do it.
So, what do you think is the motivation for, whether you like him or not? What do you think the motivation for Joe Biden to be the president is? Like, do you think it's a power thing, or do you think he wants to
Mm.
just retire? That's and say that, and that after, I don't know, 4 or 8 years, he says, "Hey, man, I was the president." Or what do you think is main, or his true motivation to be the president is or
Uh,
was?
for, for for him, I don't think it's a motivation. Somebody pushed him into it, and he agreed on it. That's my opinion. I mean, it's
Hmm.
not like somebody else. There's been others who are trying to topple the career as a, let's say maybe a George Bush Senior. I
Right.
mean, he was everything. He was director of CIA. I mean, he been into everything. Very successful in every job. He was vice president, and then he toppled his career as a president, and he still did a lot of great things on
Sure.
the top of his presidency. So
Right.
that's kind of different. Joe Biden is different, I think, because he's just he's been nothing for 8 years under Obama. He's been in the basement doing shit, doing nothing. He had never been found. And now he's just president, but he's been pushed into it because nobody else could win it except
Right.
him. So they pushed him in it and they tell me, Joe, sit there, read this, and go home. I mean, you
Sure.
look at his press conferences, he cannot answer any question. They just put the green lines over the TV and he doesn't answer anything. They shut him down. So, I mean, in his case, it's just a little different. He's just the greatest puppet, whatever of all.
Now, I was always wondering about this because I was thinking about it and I was thinking, do you have to be in politics to be the president? I mean, how come, like, for what I mean by that is, how come we have to, like, what happens if there's a guy in, I don't know, Wyoming who's a cowboy, right? And
No, you
I know
don't.
the rules. You
You
have to
don't
be,
have to.
14 years as a citizen. You have
I
to,
mean, look at first-year Congressman Obama, and he wins the whole shish kebab. Nobody knows
right.
the guy. He just pushed in. He just got in it.
But can it be just like a
So
regular guy, like a plumber, for example, right? Like, can that dude be
it
president? I mean,
can be, but you
you
can.
don't
That's what
have,
they say, right? It's a free country, so anybody can be a president.
right. I mean,
But
yeah,
it's not true. You can.
but I mean, you don't have to be like, the prerequisite to be a president is you don't have to be a senator or a governor
No,
or
no, you don't. No, it helps,
sure. I understand that.
but you don't have to be. Yeah, you don't have to be.
Right. I'm assuming anybody can be
But
president if
into yeah, technically yes, but it's very far-fetched.
sure. But then in that way, then it's not very.
So
Then in that way, I mean, how do you think that? I mean, then is it a true democracy then? I mean, in one way, I think it is, but is it?
yeah, right. Well,
But
yeah,
but I mean, you know what I mean? I mean, most of the time, people, I get it, I understand it, right? Because you're looking for people who are in these leadership positions, right? In the U.S., historically, people have voted for generals of the army,
right.
right?
Sure.
Or like, for example, Ulysses S. Grant, Dwight D. Eisenhower, who else? I don't know of, Zachary Taylor, all these guys that
Sure.
look
Yeah.
at
Look at
George Washington. He was a general,
right.
right?
Of course. Yeah.
So we kind of look for those types of people. And in the U.S., there's always been typically or historically people who have been governors,
Yeah.
or
Right.
senators, right? Because they
Right.
have experience at the federal level, you know, to be the president. I understand that, right? But so is that like so I guess in a weird way, that's kind of a requirement that you have to have these kind of
Well,
positions.
but
But
look at just recently, look at Trump, just businessman,
mm,
you know.
that's a good point. But do you think
So
that Donald Trump was an outlier, kind of exception to the rule, or
well, he did what he need to do. He
right?
followed he did everything he needs to do to qualify to get in there,
Yeah.
and he get a lot of votes.
Do you think he accomplished what he wanted to do as a president, or do you
Well,
think that
uh,
or do you think that he's
I
left a
think
lot on the table?
I think he's satisfied because he did a lot of things. He did everything he promised he'd done.
Sure.
Because just
Yeah.
the media doesn't cover 0.0001% of his whatever he was doing. Those
Right.
motherfuckers in CNN, NBC, BBC, MSNBC, all those motherfucking liars, they didn't do anything for him. But if you want to look it up, what he's done, then he's done everything he promised to do, and not every president done it. He got all that job done. Whatever he said he will do, he'll do. So you ever like him or hate him or whatever, but they nobody knows that. Not nobody. People know that, but it wasn't put up. I mean, come
Sure.
on. They keep his speeches. They cut his speeches on CNN because he said it's disinformation. I mean, disinformation. Fuck you.
Yeah.
Disinformation. That's what they're telling about us. Fuck you, disinformation. You know,
Yeah.
how do you know what is disinformation? It's the United States President of the United States, and they cut him off his briefing because that's a disinformation set. Wolf Blitzer or some other asshole who's on it and cut him off. Come on.
Well,
And you hear from people in the United States, they tell you, well, President Trump fuck off the whole 4 months of his presidency. He didn't even show up on the screen. He didn't show up on the screen. He was there all the time, but they cut him off. Those motherfuckers.
so that's what so that's what I was thinking about that. What don't you think that's a dangerous thing that if you have a media corporation, whether whoever the media is, that they can cut off the leader of the free world, like the president,
That's
they
very
can
dangerous.
actually
That's
cut
very
cut off
dangerous.
the they
Yeah.
can cut off the speech and say, hey, look, this is disinformation. Isn't that a
Yeah.
little bit isn't that a little bit dangerous that the media has
Very.
presidents over the president of
Right.
the country who's making a speech, and you just dismiss it as a
Exactly.
media pundit and say this is disinformation. So so to
And he's
me,
a commander
yeah,
in chief of the whole country, and he's saying disinformation, and you allowed to do that as a CNN chief or whatever to cut him off that network? Who are you, motherfucker, to cutting us off?
that's what I wanted to ask. I mean, if you are the moderator of the CNN and you're covering the speech, and you say, and you're the person that's on live television, and you're telling the whole country that what the president's saying is disinformation. So then, okay, so if I'm that moderator, then why am I not the president? Then I'm going to
Right?
tell you the truth. You have to listen to me and not the president.
Right?
That's kind of
See?
dangerous, right?
Well, very dangerous. That's a dangerous word, my friend.
That's very dangerous.
Yeah.
I think in a weird way, right? Because I think that's more dangerous than actually. I don't know. I don't know if you agree with me. I think that's a dangerous game you're playing when you're allowing the media to dictate what you should and shouldn't listen to,
Of
right?
course it is.
So even if you're talking about, I know this is an extreme example, so whoever's listening, I know it's an extreme example, but even if you're listening, or even if it's somebody like Joseph Stalin, right? Now, we all know that guy's a motherfucker. I don't agree with him at all. That guy is fucked up, right? But if you're still, but here's the thing, right? If he's making a speech, right, and you are a reporter of that speech, and you cut him off and
Right.
say, look, he is not telling the truth, or he's telling the country something bad, then I think that's even worse than what Stalin is saying in his speech. I don't know.
Plus, you'll be dead because he'll
R-
find you and kill you,
right,
send you to Gulag.
right, because you're
No, nobody
defying
done it.
him,
But see,
right?
now they cut Trump over to Twitter. How is that possible?
Right. How is that possible? This is what makes it dangerous, right? My point is this, right? My point is it's dangerous in a society, especially in a country like the United States, where it's embedded in the Constitution that everybody that's living within the borders of the United States are granted rights. And the right clearly states that you have a freedom of speech. Now, and you're a corporation that's going to deny somebody that person's right to speech, whether you agree with it or not. Now,
Right.
I understand that Twitter's a private company and they have their own terms of service and they want
Sure.
to keep their community, and I understand that completely. But Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, all these social media Instagram, social media platforms are highly influential. They're influential because there's many users who actively use these services, right?
Exactly.
So everybody's looking for information on these platforms, and if you deplatform, somebody like Donald Trump, who is the president or was the
Right.
president, right? So you're
Right.
denying people access to information that should be readily available for everybody,
Yeah.
right? So
But not
whether I
even
agree,
him. I mean, if he is a government, he is a government, and he cannot stop this. He cannot stop it. They say whatever you like just said, it's a private company. Okay, but do they have the rights to stop this because they're a private company? They don't have, and government did do nothing about it. They can do nothing about it. Facebook, they can do nothing about it. Twitter, can do nothing about YouTube, like all those you mentioned. They can do nothing. Government can do nothing. They're completely worthless, useless, and powerless.
right, because they are a private company. So a private company is allowed to conduct business the way they want to, right? I understand that. But I don't understand where, see, here's the thing, right? Because Facebook is uh Facebook is great in one way because you can spread and share information instantly, right? You put a post, it's on your Facebook wall immediately, right? Whatever the fuck you want to say, right? So Facebook is kind of like real life, but virtual, right? So you have, when you're in real life, see, here's the difference, right? Okay, so
But you cannot say everything you wanted to say. They can block it.
sure, because look, here's the thing, right? When you're meeting, how many, you can't meet as many people that you can meet as you can meet on Facebook, right? So in real life, you meet like, I
Right.
don't know, maybe 6 people during the day, right? Maximum. But if you send your information on Facebook, whoever you're friends with, plus whoever they're friends with, that information spreads, right? So you're meeting more people on Facebook, for example, than you would in real life.
Sure.
So that means that, and remember, everybody that you meet in real life has a different opinion than you. So I think that's where Facebook and Instagram and all these social media platforms, they don't take that into account. What they take into account is that they built a company with their own set of terms of service. I understand that too, right? So they say, like, in order to use our platform, you have to follow these guidelines. I
Right.
completely understand that. But what I don't understand and what they don't take into account is that everybody is going to have issues with that terms of service, number one. And two, everybody who use the platforms is just as fucked up as me and you, right? So we have our own opinions and we
Right.
have diverse opinions, and everybody who uses that platform, these platforms have differing opinions than the actual platform. Do you know what I
Right.
mean? I think that's what they don't take into account, these companies. And that's where I think that the conflict of the First Amendment, where people have the right to freedom of speech, gets kind of blurred in these situations.
Right.
I think I understand that the companies want to keep their platforms available so everybody can use it, because if they don't, then people will go away from it. They don't want that. I understand that.
Sure.
But I think that we should be able to use our voice because we're humans. We like to speak, and just let it free flow. Whoever listens to us and agree with us, they'll find us. And those who disagree with us, they'll find us too and disagree with
Right.
us. That's fine.
But
That's the part of life.
only thing is that you will have to use your own waves. That means starting the radio, broadcast on FM, MMM, whatever it is, 620, and go free. Otherwise,
Right.
if you have to use the platform which some motherfucker sits in front of it and says, no, cannot say this, okay, then you're screwed, right?
Right.
So, I mean, what's the other chances that somebody will listen to it? They monopolize these people, and they modify those people, and they in charge of it, and they knew it. They know they're doing that.
Right.
So, and and they don't care. They just need to do it because they make money. So you will have to find a megaphone and go on the square and speak your mind out.
Well,
And
in
that's
high,
very difficult to get it because they monopolize these kind of companies. What does it
yeah.
take to start another Twitter? Start another Weaver or Fucker or whatever fucking name it is, right?
Well, if you want to
Twitter.
start, well,
Yeah,
first of all, you would have to create a website that's kind of similar to all of these and offer a different type of service, maybe a little bit. And it would be hard to kind of break into to start
exactly.
your own social media company would be very hard to break into.
Exactly. I don't think you have a chance
No,
because they're
definitely
already
not.
there. They'll kill
Right.
you. They close
They
you.
they won't close you, they'll just buy you out.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
so
They'll
now
shut you
in
up.
kind of in a weird way, because
Right.
they will buy the rights to your website, and then now it'll be like, I don't know, let's say you make like weaver.com. It's a cool new social media site, and then it'd be like brought to you by Facebook, because Facebook is the umbrella company
Yeah,
that you're
exactly.
under.
And
Yeah,
you're still under their rules, and
sure.
they will block it. They will block it again. They will block
Right,
you whatever you say.
right, because their
You have
terms
no
of
chance.
service will filter through your company down to the end user.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I mean, it's like,
It's a vicious circle you cannot break in through now.
yeah, no.
So,
If you're gonna start a social media site, I think that would be a bad idea, unless you 100% fund it yourself. But that could get very expensive.
exactly.
Yeah, and
And,
probably at this point not worth it.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
And it will probably drain you before you
Right.
start making any money.
Well, it'll
Because
drain you
these
completely.
yeah, because these people are just monopoly.
Right.
They
With,
they are
with,
monopoly on the network,
without
which no
being a
which yeah, accused that they're doing that. That's what
sure,
they try to tell them. We try to tell them this is monopoly, and which is illegal. Actually,
sure.
they should be broken up into pieces and have other people chance to do this. But they don't want to hear about it. They don't want to entertain that at all whatsoever.
I think how they can get around it by saying that they're not monopoly is by saying, like, look, okay, so let's say, for example, you own a I think the way they get around that by saying that they're not a monopoly is be saying like, no, look, they're individual companies themselves, and we
Yeah.
just provide an umbrella type of overarching management. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
They
Sure.
because look at for example, what I mean by that, Instagram, right? Instagram coexisted with Facebook. They were two separate companies. Now Instagram is owned by Facebook.
Right.
So Facebook bought Instagram for, I don't know, I don't want to misquote or anything, for millions of dollars, right? So
Right.
Instagram sold the company to Facebook. So that's how they can get around it, by saying like, no, we are not a monopoly. Instagram is still its own
Right.
entity, just under the blanket of us. Do you know
Right.
what I mean?
Of course. Yeah.
That's how they get around it. That's like
Yeah.
TBS, right? The TV show. That TBS owns fucking, I don't know, Kraft Foods, Nestle chocolate, fucking, I don't know. I don't want to,
Right.
they
Sure.
own all these companies. But the
Right.
way they say that we're not a monopoly is that no, they're still their own individual companies, but we just have this like kind of, I don't know, passive management of these companies.
Right. Exactly. And you cannot say fuck because we're gonna close it on you.
Right.
And that's it, right? So they control it
Yeah.
100% without you knowing or saying that. So if they don't
Sure.
like it, they cut it.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
You're
And
screwed.
and I think that's the problem, right? That's where and I think, but that infringes on, I think that infringes on your right to be able to speak your mind freely, right? Because you always have to self-censor yourself to make sure that your company doesn't get shut down by the bosses above you.
Right, exactly.
That's very dangerous to me. That's more dangerous than whatever the fucking president says. If he's able if he's able to speak freely as well,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Which I
Well,
don't understand, because
yeah.
because this is what's weird, okay? Now, you had a president, uh Donald Trump, right? President Trump. I think he must have been, no, he is the only president who used social media as much as he did. I don't think any other president used social media like he did.
No.
He used Twitter all the time.
Right.
I think he's the only president that's ever used a social media platform to get his information out the way he did.
Yeah. That's probably right.
I mean, because for example, let's look at it this way, right? You're fucking Andrew Jackson, the seventh president or sixth president of the United States. There was fucking no social media. They don't even know what that. They didn't know what that meant. What did that mean,
Right.
right? So or even Ronald Reagan in the 80s. That's not even that far back. He didn't use Twitter.
No, they didn't have that.
Right. It didn't exist.
They
Right.
barely
So,
have cell phones.
sure. So I think he was the one that used social media a lot in his presidency
Yeah, that's true.
to get information out about what he's saying. So I think he used social media to the best of his abilities.
Right. Until he got cut off for disinformation.
And that's what I'm saying. I mean, if Twitter can cancel the president of the United States, then who the fuck, who else can they cancel? You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly.
And this is what bothers me too. Because Twitter is an international company, don't you think fucking other presidents of the, this is what bothers me a lot. I was thinking about this, right? Twitter was invented in the United States. Great, innovative. It's a great platform, whatever. Now, if they have the ability to, all you need to do to sign up for Twitter is an email account and you make up your own handle name. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think what Twitter or any company from the US doesn't take into account that there are people around the world who sign up for Twitter. I think they have this illusion that only Americans sign up for Twitter and not some fucker or some person in the middle of fucking Antarctica signs up for Twitter.
Yeah.
And so they want to censor everything that comes from the United States, but somebody who's a leader, don't tell me that like Angela Merkel doesn't use Twitter. She knows what Twitter is. She knows
Yeah, she
damn well
uses
how
it.
to use it too.
Sure. Of course.
But she doesn't get banned from Twitter. That's what I don't understand. That's what that's what I have a inner turmoil with, right? Because
Right. Because that guy who listened to her says this is not disinformation.
sure,
So who are these people who are against, behind, pulling the strings, the man behind the curtain, that.
so my problem is why are you why if Twitter is designed and made in the United States and are banning, canceling, silencing, taking down content from American creators and allowing people from other countries to keep their fucking Twitter accounts, why are you banning American accounts, right? Or people from the
Right.
US from
Sure.
speaking freely on Twitter, but you're allowing people from other countries to freely promote their bullshit in whatever language they speak, and
Right.
don't cancel them. That's the
Yeah.
problem. How are you allowed to cancel American companies or American people from free speech, but you're allowing other countries and people using Twitter or Facebook or Instagram from other countries and not canceling them? I want to know those figures. Why are those figures not available?
Right. Yeah. Mm.
So you're a motherfucker from Pakistan saying all this bullshit, and you're allowed on Twitter, the Twitter executives are able to cancel the president of the United States. That's crazy to me.
Yeah. Sure.
I don't understand that.
Yeah. Well,
How can you do that, especially in Western countries where apparently we're taught that American Western society is the best society in the world. So if it's the best society in the world, why aren't we allowed to talk freely?
right. Well, because it's not free anymore. It's Marxist-Leninist country now, and it turned out to be a pretty bad shithole. So we're run out by the government and for the government and by the government. So there you go. You don't have any rights anymore.
I don't understand that. I truly do not understand how a country who has never been and never was associated from the beginning anything to do. Look, here's an example. The Communist Manifesto was written in 1848, okay, which is 20 years before, roughly 20 years before the American Civil War. Okay, the American Civil War started in 1861. Okay, now the US, or at the time the American colonies, fought a revolutionary war against their colonizers, which was England at the time, in 1776 to 1783, to be able to be free from oppression, which was almost, let me do the math here, okay? 1848 to 1783, which was 65 years before the Communist Manifesto was written. So for 65 years, the US was finding itself to figure out the best way how the American, the U.S. could become states, a union, make everybody as possible free, and all these things for 65 years. Okay, so and 65 years after 65 years, the Communist Manifesto came out in 1848. The Karl Marx, and Frederick Engels. Right, so the country, American country, was already 65 years old before that came out. So you're telling me that after 65 years, all that shit went away?
Well, I don't think it started right there and then. The influential was somewhere else, but mainly in Europe, and so that not United States per se, but it went there as well, and it has the deep roots in there as well. You know.
Right, but my point is, the USA at that time was 65 years old already by the time the Communist Manifesto came out.
Right.
Okay? That means for 65 years, the USA was trying to find out how to make states, how to give rights to those states, how to make laws that were free for everybody, and living up to the fucking Constitution and Declaration of Independence, the American Creed, everything like that.
Right.
And then the Communist Manifesto came out in 1848. Right? So now you're telling me, which I want to which is interesting to me, that people all, started reading this bullshit after the country, the country wasn't young. It wasn't like 1783 after the Yorktown the British troops went away at 1783. Right. It did, and King George III said, look, we want to sign this peace treaty, whatever that. And then 1785, the Communist Manifesto came out, right? To influence Americans or whatever. The newly formed country. It wasn't like that. It was 65 years later. The country's old at that time, right?
Well, in some way, yeah.
It's over a half century. It's almost 100 years old, the country. Then all of a sudden, you're telling me that this is going to influence the next generation of people all the way up until 2021? For me, that's fucking ridiculous.
Well, but it's been worked in. It's not. It didn't happen overnight. So, everything started basically throughout the 60s. That's where it took off. And I'm talking about 1960. That's where it was a big influence of communists and all that. There's a big disarray, wars here, wars there. So, and that's where it went on. Everybody knew who communists are, but in the United States was kind of like separated. I mean, it's a continent far away from Europe, and people in Europe, look at what happened to here now. I mean, look at the French people. I mean, they're totally brainwashed. Look at the Swedish people, totally brainwashed. Europe's totally brainwashed by these Marxists. So there you go. They've been working on this since, like you said, in 1865, whatever that was invented. It's been embedded. I mean, we've been fighting that since then and then and then. But it didn't go in the US as quick as in that point, because we were working our own different way. And a lot of people like it that way. And it worked. I mean, we didn't look at you hear these people, they didn't have this, they didn't have that. They have to work hard on the field. Look at Chuck. So whether we're here to get a north field or south field, you have to work hard, work with the weather. They didn't have water. I mean, people work hard.
Sure.
That's not like, but this Communist Manifesto, it's a brainwashing sponge, which works really well. and
Look,
it's getting worse.
let's give us some perspective, right? So you mentioned 1960s in the US where maybe the socialism and communism kind of kicked off, right? So in 1960, let's go with 1960. Okay. In 1960, the Communist Manifesto was already 112 years old.
Sure.
Okay. So, and let's look at the doc. If we go to 1960, okay, 1960, again, 1960 minus 1776. So you have a document in the Declaration of Independence that was written in 1776. Was 184 years old at that time.
Yeah.
And the Communist Manifesto was 112 years old at that time, right? And remember, like I said, the Communist Manifesto wasn't even thought that the U.S. was already living under the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution for 65 years before the Communist Manifesto was written. Now, why? This is what I don't understand, and why did the people in 1960s or even now? Fuck it, 1960s. I wasn't alive in 1960. I can't talk about it. I want to talk about now. Sure. Why do people now look to the Communist Manifesto for answers and not the Declaration of Independence? Why?
That's a good question. Yeah, because I don't think the Constitution, they don't understand it. It doesn't explain them all the rules. They don't. It's Communist Manifesto is a lot easier for people to understand.
So doesn't that make
it comply with it?
So in your opinion, doesn't that make it a sad society that the people who live in a society that was written with the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, right, who live in the country with that as the main document, as their overruling document that they're supposed to be the supreme law of the land? Doesn't that seem like a sad society that the people living in that country doesn't understand that document, but understands a document that was written by Germans in London about Russia? Mm-hmm. That seems like a sad society to live in if my countrymen doesn't even understand our own documentation.
Right. Well,
that's sad.
Right. They have to put it the law, the educators, and the explanators and all those people who are supposed to educate all these people about what's in that book. I mean, that's raised a serious question about these people, what they telling these people, how do they teaching them, and how do they expressing it, and how do they explaining that? See, we don't know that because there's a serious issue about all these people who try to explain other people how to work it, and we don't have the answer for it because we learn it and we love it and we want to continue it that way, but it's not been. I don't think it's been taught properly.
Well, to me, if I'm living in the United States and I don't even know the Constitution, but I know the Communist Manifesto, there's a big, big problem in the society.
Right, it is.
Because the Communist Manifesto wasn't written for my country. It was written for a different country. How is that possible that people in one country know the documents and history of another fucking country and all that entails, but doesn't even know their own country's documentation?
Right.
That's sad. That's bad.
That's right.
How can I, as a person living in the United States, know more about fucking communist Russia and the communist writings and manifestos? How do I know more about that than I do about my own Declaration of Independence and Constitution?
Oh, you have to ask Obama. He's a masterminder of that. He's a master motherfucker who fucked this all up. And Alinsky and all those people, Hillary Clinton, all those people. Okay, they're masterminders of telling people bullshit and bullshit over and over and over. And where they go, where the poorest people are, the stupidest people gather around. They cannot tell you that, but they go up to the fucking ghettos and tell people this bullshit. And it says, yeah, that's great. Do you have shoes? No, I don't have. Do you want a shoes? Yes, I do. Do you want government provided shoes? Yeah, sure. Government should give us the shoes. Do you want
Yeah,
a cell phone? Yeah, I want a cell phone. Oh, there you go. See, that's the government, that's the Communist Manifesto, where
sure,
everybody gets everything for free, and it's very, very gullible, very gullible. Everybody loves it.
sure.
That's the thing. You wanna potatoes? Well, the Constitution says that you have a right to your land, and you can do whatever you want on that land. And if you want to plant corn or potatoes, it says plant, so you
Right.
can do it yourself. And you have to do it yourself because if you have a land and don't plan on it, what you're gonna have on it? Bunch of rocks and weeds. And if you're lazy ass who wants to do it that way, then you're never gonna do anything. But if you wanna have a land, there's a land, you can purchase the land, you can do whatever you want with the land, and you can maybe, if you're smart, if you know what you're doing, and you plant it right and you doing things right, you can even make a corner, you can sell and make a living out of it.
Well,
Ain't
that's
so
what.
bad.
Well, no, well, that's going back to your point of Charles Ingalls, right?
Yeah,
Because Charles
exactly.
Ingalls, they gave him whatever he, I don't know. They went to Minnesota and they were given some land, and he had to
Right.
work it himself, right? Which is great. I don't know how
Right.
many acres he had. Doesn't matter. But he
Right.
worked the land himself. He didn't rely on the government to fucking grow his
Exactly.
corn or whatever the
Right.
fuck he wanted to,
Yeah.
so
But look
he
at look at what
so
they doing to farmers today. They said, "Hey, we give you the Zebka. Well, you plant it, and we buy it from you. You don't have to worry about it one fucking thing." So this guy just throws it on there, do shit, and then give it to them, and that's how it works.
the problem is with that system though is that if you're uh, like if you're a farmer in the Czech Republic and you got involved in that deal, right? We'll give you free land, we'll give you more money, we'll invest in your farm, and let's just say 1 year that you don't grow Zhepka, your EU funding gets taken away from you.
Yeah,
That's similar to collectivism in that way, because it's an updated version of collectivism,
exactly.
because what you're doing is you're not collecting food for the state, which is Czech Republic, and then shipping that shit up to Russia or whatever. What you're doing is you're basically bowing down to the overlords of the EU for money, and if your crops doesn't produce that, then you're not going to get EU funding. That's the same thing, just in a different
Yeah,
version.
well, exactly.
You know, so because what that Shepka isn't worth anything for anybody. You can't eat it. Who's going to eat
Right.
that shit, right? So
Yeah,
it's not worth
nobody eats
anything.
that.
So you just
It
get
gets
money
thrown
for it.
away. Yeah, and it gets
So
just modeled thrown away.
and if you don't produce any of it, you're not going to receive any funding, and then you're
Yeah,
going to break
exactly.
the agreement that you're supposed to have this for, I don't know, 5 years or whatever. So you
Yeah.
basically broke the agreement, and you're not going to get funding anymore. Then you get subsequently put out of business. So it's the
Right.
same fucking shit, right?
Mhm.
You know, I
So
mean,
so there you go. That's based on that. I mean, and people can say nothing because it all got different way. But if you went to the West, you were given 100 acres. If you went as a family, husband and wife, you get 200 acres for
right,
free.
right,
Just go to
sure,
move to West. Just have your ass loaded up your truck and move to West, and you get 100 acres per person.
right.
So that wasn't that bad.
No, that's actually pretty good.
So there was land for free. And whatever
Yes,
you do with it, it's up to you.
of course.
Hmm? So,
That's why Charles Ingalls had to
So,
clear
so you
that
didn't
North
have to,
Field.
you didn't even have to buy it. So what
No,
kind of deal was that? It was the greatest deal ever. The government gave them that land,
I think that was that.
literally.
I think that was that part of that expansionist
Yeah,
plan
exactly.
to make the
Yeah,
country bigger. They want
yeah,
because at that time, let's look at, for example, Oklahoma, for example, in 1825. It didn't even exist. There was land, but
right,
no, who's going to go there and why? Nobody was
right,
there, right?
right,
Who's going to go there if you're from Boston? Why would you go to Oklahoma? You have your
right,
if let's look at let's look at it in a different way. If you're John Adams, right, in 1799, before you're going to be president of the United States, or if you're already president, why would you go to Oklahoma? You don't need that place, right?
right, right,
Because you're going to focus all your attention to Washington politics, right? So if your idea is to expand your country and you say, look, I don't even know what they called that land at that. I don't think they called it Oklahoma at that time.
yeah, I
I,
don't know, yeah.
yeah, I think they just called it land.
They call it
West.
West,
Yeah,
yeah.
West. Yeah. So,
Move to West
move to
and
the
make your
West. So,
claim.
right.
Yeah,
They knew it
exactly.
existed, but
Right,
they said, okay, you know what? To make it more attractive, there's too many people in Boston, for example. We need people to go and spread out.
right.
So, so you go west and we give you 200 acres and we shut the fuck up. You just go there,
Yeah, exactly.
you know?
That's pretty attractive deal to me.
It's really attractive. Who wouldn't
Mhm.
take that deal, to be
Right,
honest?
exactly.
If you're living in a 1+1 flat in fucking Boston and you can
Right,
go to Oklahoma and get 200 acres,
right.
you know, just get yourself a wife and move out west. Who gives a
And,
fuck?
and start it up. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Mhm. There
I
you
think
go.
that's what happened to Charles Ingalls. He wasn't from
Yeah,
Minnesota. I think he was from
no, it
fucking
wasn't.
Philadelphia too, or whatever.
Yeah, right, exactly.
And they said, look, in Minnesota, we give you 250 acres. You just have to farm this shit by yourself. Okay.
Yeah.
Uh,
How much is the horse? At $2?
yeah.
Okay.
Yes, you got yourself a horse, fucking 200 acres, and you have to do that shit yourself. That's not so bad. Fuck
Yeah,
that.
exactly. Yeah,
That's actually pretty good.
I know. But
Uh,
that's not in Communist Manifesto. Communist Manifesto explain it differently. Much easier way. You don't need a 200 acres. You just need a flat, do nothing, and government will pay you.
yeah.
Hmm.
Well,
Or
that's
you
what
just
happened.
work for us. You just go, we make a factory. What are you doing? Well, I don't know what I'm doing. Well, we'll show you. You do this. You shovel the shit from this side to the other. It's like
Right.
concentration camp in making, dude. But people love it. People love that idea.
Well,
And it's
basically, it was
still
a concentration camp.
it's very, very sellable today.
It's sellable because I think
And Biden's selling it. Biden's selling it like fucking acreage.
I, in one way, I kind of understand why it's sellable, because if you're a homeless guy, for example, let's go to the extreme. If you're a homeless guy and somebody like Joe Biden says that we will provide public housing for everybody, if you're a homeless guy, wouldn't you would take that deal for sure.
Yeah, but see, this is not, you're selling it to mid-class people. You don't selling it to a homeless guy. There's always a homeless guy.
Right.
But it's not only for those guys. He's selling it to mid-class people.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
You already have a house, you have a
Right.
job, you have
Right.
everything. But you're
Yeah.
gonna sell it because of this idea, you
So
know?
what you're saying is
That's
if
what's
if
the
he's
problem.
if he's selling it to middle class people, you're saying like if I'm middle class, which I am, I consider myself middle class, that I have a house, I have a I have a job, and you're saying sell all that shit so you could live in a flat and we pay for it.
Right.
But how would that be attractive to middle class?
Well, because you still have to do a lot of your own thinking. This is in one way of them is a deliberation of your own thinking. You don't want to
Mhm,
think all the time, do you?
mhm, mhm,
Why would you? We think it for you. We get your
mhm.
shoes, we get all this. You get a
Right,
vaccination, you go
right.
over there, shit over there, clean your hands over there, come back here. What the fuck? You fucking robot. And we
So the
are,
so the selling point
right?
is why bust your ass to be middle class when we can give you everything?
Exactly. Exactly.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Because middle class is the most vulnerable people, right? Because you have to
Right.
do everything. You're paying everything. You're the hardest taxes. You're the hardest discrimination, and racism. You're facing all these things. You're getting killed on the street. You have to watch. You you get the insurance on everything. You have to pay for everything. Middle class gets screwed the massive way. We got to do everything.
I was thinking about that, right? Because I was thinking about I was watching some YouTube things, and they were like, you can subscribe to the channel, and for a low fee of, I don't know, 99 cents, you could be a member of the YouTube channel, right? Or something like that.
Right.
Or join my Patreon and pay $1.99 a month, right?
Right.
Okay, so I was thinking about that, and I was thinking, well, wait a minute. They're not kind of advertising. I mean, they're not advertising for homeless people because they wouldn't even be available to see
Of
this
course.
advertisement, you right?
Right.
Because they don't have shit. They're just on the
Right.
streets. Unfortunately, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they're on the street, so they won't even see
It's not
this.
about them at all. It's not about
Right.
them
And then
at all.
I was thinking, well, it's not even for the rich class either, right? Because
No.
if
Right.
you're rich, a billionaire, you're not gonna listen to some fucking YouTube channel,
Right.
right?
Exactly.
So then I was thinking, well, this is for the middle class, people who can afford to pay a little bit each month to be part of
Exactly.
these
To
groups,
screw
right?
you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And then I
exactly.
was thinking, well, then, but then I was thinking about it, right? I was thinking about, well, if this is for people who can afford it, right, which is the middle class, people spend money, save money, right? That's the middle
Right.
class way, you know. And I was thinking about it. Then the middle class has got to be more important, or if not the most important part of society, because the majority of people kind of fall into that category. The
Right.
outliers are not everybody's homeless, right?
Right.
And not everybody's a billionaire rich.
Exactly.
Most people fall up into the upper middle class, and lower middle class. There's
Exactly.
I agree with that. Those three kind of systems, right?
Right.
But I
Sure.
was thinking that these people kind of rely on middle class.
Of course.
And
And
what I was thinking,
all those three,
yeah, all those
upper,
three,
middle, and lower.
right? Because
Those the
everybody,
people who drive everything.
sure, exactly. I agree with that
Uh,
completely.
yeah. And pay for everything.
Right. And if those people pay for everything, then you need those people to be able to pay for these things. So then I was thinking that, and that's where I get this argument that Marxism and Leninism, Marxism mainly is a rich person's or a middle class problem, right? Because if you're homeless, who gives a fucks about Marxism? It
Right.
doesn't do anything
Sure.
for you. You're homeless, right?
Right. Exactly.
Who gives a fuck about capitalism? It doesn't work for you. Nothing works for you. You're on the street begging. So any
Right.
political system doesn't apply to you, right?
Exactly.
If you're rich enough, then whether it's Marxism or capitalism, it
You have a
doesn't.
choice. You might have a
Yeah,
second choice. Yeah.
yeah, it doesn't bother you either. You have more money than the system, right?
Right.
So they
Exactly.
have to rely on the middle class people to be able to fund all these
Sure.
systems.
Exactly.
They have to get you on board, but
Right.
they don't want you to be involved so much. They want to keep you down so that you don't have a say and just be involved in the system, whether it's a good system or a bad system. They need you to be involved somehow,
Exactly.
you know. And
Exactly.
that's why I think the middle class is kind of the most important class of all societies,
Right.
because those are the people that are going to make these systems work, right? Because without the middle class, the capitalism would fail. Without the middle class, socialism will fail, or Marxism will fail, because
Right.
you wouldn't have enough people to be involved in that system at all,
Exactly.
right? Let's look at it this way. If you have collectivism, which is collectivism, for those of you who are listening, are farmers, individual farmers that now have to work for a centralized farm, right? If you didn't have farmers, that collectivization program would fail, right?
Mhm.
If you didn't have farmers that didn't agree to that system, if those farmers revolted or rebelled or protested, then if it was possible, right,
Right.
then that collectivism or collectivization would fail for sure. You wouldn't have enough farmers to be involved in that,
Right.
right? So you
But
need these,
that kind of rules of collectivism was forced.
right,
See, that's how it all been done. It's forced. It's been forced to people under the gun and under the self right that you get you either go this or go somewhere else or we can kill you. You have to realize that how they actually got to this point is that they eliminate most of those people who disagree with this. That's how this
right,
all was achieved.
right,
That's what you have to be afraid of. What's
sure,
going to happen? Because if you don't agree with some of these things, then it's going to get harder. Because once they get a grip on it, that's what happened. You cannot let them do these things because they did this of your own security, that they either eliminate you, you gave them everything, or they literally kill you. There were millions of people killed because of this was achieved.
right,
Idea. Marxist idea is just massive killing people who didn't agree with that idea. You don't forget that. That's the whole main point. Don't forget the point that they killed people. They took everything and they give you 100 acres. They said, you get 100 acres to us by tomorrow morning. Okay? And if you not, we do something else. And what that else could be, you might not be here tomorrow.
right.
You get that axe and travel thousands of miles behind the Ural Mountains and build your own derevnya, because you're Gulag. So that's where you go.
Well, that's a really scary thought. I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
if
Well,
that was,
that you
well,
have to
see, that's
read.
what I'm saying. That wasn't that's
You read the 100 Days in Gulag or whatever Solzhenitsyn wrote.
he wrote the Gulag Archipelago.
Yeah, exactly. So there
Yeah.
you go.
Did you read that
Oh,
book? Have you ever read that
yeah.
book?
Hmm.
The Gulag Archipelago?
Yeah.
Or did you read that? Have you ever read the book The Day in the Life of Ivan
Yeah,
Denisovich?
exactly. Hmm.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, those books,
You have
are
to. Everybody should read that,
right, because
and
that's
then you have.
those
Then you have the. Then you need to know what's happening. You need
well,
to read and understand.
right.
And if you need to
I think
understand, you tune some channels.
well, that's why
No.
reading is very important, because those are,
Yeah.
you might not understand everything from those books,
Right.
but you will know more about what is going on before you went into reading those books,
Right.
right? And those books were written in the time, or at the time, that shit was actually going on.
I know exactly.
That's what's amazing about those books. It's not that those books were written after the fact and people can
Right.
conjecture or make things up, because
Right.
but those books were written by people who were old enough to understand what was going on,
Mhm. Right.
who happened to survive or was living at that
Right.
time, and wrote those books about that actual time period of what was
Exactly.
actually happening. That's what is so fascinating for me.
Right. Exactly.
And that's, speaking of that, uh Stalin, here's an interesting fact. The reason why this is interesting for me, And it's interesting because when Stalin died, he was 74 years old when Stalin died, right? In 1953. He was 74. Now, here's what's interesting about this fact. Okay, he died in 1953. It's 2021. So people who are 70 years old at this time, who are still alive, do not know what the terror of what Stalin was. That's what's interesting to me.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you were born in 1950, you were 3 years old before he died, right? You're 3 years old, you don't understand shit.
Right.
So if you were born in 1950 and you're 20 and it's 2021, you're 70 years old, 71 years old.
Right.
And you don't understand what was going on during the time in 1933 and 36 when he was doing all that crazy shit, killing everybody in the 30s. That's so interesting to me. You're 70 years old and you don't know who Stalin was. That's what's fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because I did the math. If Stalin were alive today, he'd be 142 years old.
Right.
So that's what's crazy to me. You could be somebody who's the same age, 74. Okay, so Stalin was 74 when he died. If you're 74 now, you wouldn't know anything about Stalin's life unless you learned about it. But you didn't live during his time, kind of.
Right.
You know, that's fascinating for me.
Yeah, right. Well, you that's why it's very important that this things gets passed and talked over and over again, and presides with the books and go to facts and do the seminars and talk to people how these people function and how this is wrong, because there is so many different interpretations today. Because everybody lie.
Sure.
So I mean, that's.
I think that's where the misinformation comes from, because I mean, if you're 70 years old, right, and you didn't live during his time, and so you don't know what those people were living. That's what's amazing for me, man, because you could be 70 years old right now and don't know anything about Stalin.
Right.
That's how old that guy is, Stalin. You know what I mean? And that's what makes it fascinating, because you really have to read about him and understand him and learn what he's really about. Because if you don't, then you could just make conjecture. And that's where I think misinformation comes from, because you just learn it from, I don't know, basic things, or I don't know how to explain it, but you know, like for me, right? Okay, let's look at this, right? Like I was thinking about it, Chernobyl, right? I was born in the same year as Chernobyl, but I don't know anything about it, right?
Sure.
Because
I don't know something about whatever you want to know about it, if you can learn it.
Sure.
But as your own perspective, you cannot live it. I mean, that's a certain fact that we cannot live all those things. You can the life is too short to live all these things happen.
Sure, right. And I don't know all those people.
We have these major politician manipulators like Obama and Biden and all these motherfuckers who are trying to manipulate all the world, and they lie basically, because it's very difficult. And then obscure books. That's what is dangerous. They obscure books. They give you your books. We teach you this. We teach you that. We come out to our school. Come out to our college. We brainwash you the way we want it. You don't need to read these books. Just read these books. What the fuck?
Right. Yeah.
And that's how it all started, right?
Sure. I mean, they
denying your own education.
Well, they just bring up some obscure books and they say that that's the way to learn.
That's all you need to know.
Yeah, exactly. Hey man, just keep talking. I'll be right back, man.
Okay.
So
So
Just keep talking. I'll be right back.
where they have these books, they give you all the educations they want, and you can't do anything about it. The only thing is to try to attack it in some way when they have these, they tell you, the government tell you what they want to tell you. And that's why we here, and we have to explain people that this is not the right way. You can have that kind of education. We teach you what we teach you is right. I mean, I like to learn something for myself. And if you don't have access to any of these books or podcasts or news or any of these old people, like you said, you cannot have people, because you cannot outlive it. If you're 70 years old, that's the it. So 70 years, and in that it didn't happen in your lifetime, you cannot say anything. What do you know about George Washington? We don't know anything about George Washington because I wasn't alive. But
Right, exactly.
there's books that you can learn, and you say, "Whoa, this guy does this, and this guy does that," and oh wow, that. And so that's why it's very important to have, and you be able to educate yourself.
Yeah,
And
exactly. I think that comes with the, where, you have to have books and you have to have education that allows you have to, first of all, if you live in a society that allows you to read any type of book that you want,
right,
then you can make your own, um, like, for example, Jordan Peterson. I was listening to a podcast with Jordan Peterson,
right,
and I like him a lot. Okay, I look up to him because he looks at things in a different perspective from everything. He looks at it as a
uh
psychology perspective and a philosophy perspective,
right,
right? And he was on the podcast with Andrew Schultz, okay? And Andrew Schultz,
mhm,
who he is, he's a comedian, right? And
right,
what they were talking about is how to formulate your own type of speech. And he said, I don't want to misquote him because I just listened to the podcast
right,
today,
right,
but he said something to the fact of the in order to be able to be something like to be educated was to be able to, first of all, you have to be able to speak, meaning
mhm,
you have to know your own language, whether it be Czech, whether it be English, whether it be German, whether it's a second language, whatever language you know, you have to be able to converse in that language. He doesn't mean that you have to be uh, 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 a master in that language. That's not what
right,
he's saying. That's not what I got away from it. Like, for example, you have to be able to communicate effectively in the language that you use.
right,
And what that means is you have, whatever your language is, like, so our language is English, right? So he said, you have to be a good communicator in that language. How to be a good communicator? Reading.
right,
Read your own language because you learn vocabulary. You learn more
right,
said basically learn how to speak first of all.
right.
You have to be able to speak in your own language. And
Of
he
course.
doesn't and he says you can use
You still there?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, dude.
Dude, I got lost, man.
Yeah, I'm back now. Whatever
Dude,
happened?
dude, we had some technical difficulties, but we're back, man.
It's something happened, and Big Brother listening and cut us off, and we're going back stronger than ever. They cannot shut us down. They cannot mute us down. We going on.
We're unstoppable.
Yeah, man. So where do we
Dude.
left it off? Which Stalin is on now?
Well, no, well, Neo, fuck that guy Stalin. But dude, that guy's crazy. But no, but basically, what we were talking about Jordan Peterson, right?
Right.
Well, now I moved on from Stella to Mordry Portugal, man.
Nice.
But
That's what I'm talking about.
dude, man. But what I'm talking about, man, is what he was talking about is like it's like in order to gain your speaking skills, right? To be able to and and he made a good point, right? And he was saying that if you're not able to articulate yourself properly, right? If you're not able to speak properly,
Sure.
you're going to be prone to violence
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
because the reason why
sure.
he this is what he was saying. If you're not able to formulate your own ideas correctly, or understand the ideas that's being presented to you, you're gonna be like, I don't understand this. I'm gonna be going for violence because you don't understand what's
Right.
being said.
Sure. that's set up for failure,
Sure, he said that it's set up for failure because you don't understand what you're talking about.
right?
I
Well,
I understand. I don't understand most of what Peterson is saying, but I understood that point. That's pretty simple. That was pretty simple
right.
to understand.
Well, yeah, yeah, yeah.
And we were talking about it too because the Andrew Schultz, the guy who was actually hosting the podcast, what he was talking about is that his family ate dinner at the dinner table every night, and they were able to have conversations. And we had this conversation before where the pub is similar to eating at the dinner table
Hmm.
because you're able to talk with other people and express your ideas freely.
Right.
And the pub can be a great opportunity to be able to express yourself using language, whatever language you're speaking.
Exactly. I mean, we were just sitting there at the, it's kind of like a yard now. It's not open properly, and it's like halfway illegal, but people just congregate that already. And when you talk to people, it's completely different. They if they have a if you have a little bit of respect for their own speech, then it's completely different. Because we were just saying, it's like, well, who are you gonna vote? I said, I don't know. But well, we don't know either. But I said, I'm just wondering if we can sing now. She said, well, I don't. It's not kosher. It's not like cool to make fun of people who had the COVID. I had the COVID. I was really sick, and my daughter was sick. And I said, well, I don't undermine that. I was just saying that if we're sitting here and having beer, can we sing? I'm
Right.
not undermining and saying that the COVID is not the real thing.
Sure.
COVID is the real thing. But I mean, I was just saying, what are we doing about these crazy rules? With something is done this and done that, and we're not doing that. And then, like, well, she said, well, I do. We got the sick, so they because they were already ill, and they got vaccinated. So I said, like, do you like bulletproof now? She said, well, we didn't want to. They say like you don't have to get vaccinated, but some people do. Like some people don't want to get vaccinated. Some people do get vaccinated. Some people don't care. Says I want to go to the Croatia. Just give me that shit, right? Like
Sure.
we said, yeah, we talk about it.
Right.
So it's like I don't know what to think about that. But yeah, definitely the conversation among the people is very important.
Sure.
It have to be done,
Well,
and
it's
you have to
it's
listen to other people's opinion.
right. Exactly. Because I agree with that. Because look at this point, right? Because you two, for some, I don't know how to say it. You two just met, right? You don't know why that person went to that place. They don't know why you went to that place, and you, but you were just there, right? And
Right,
that person was there, and you were there, and you just struck up a conversation with that person. And you don't know that person's life story. They don't know your life
sure,
story. You're just there, right?
yeah,
You just there. They're having beer, you're having beer, and you are now having a conversation about what's going on in the world, and you're getting that person's perspective, and they're getting your perspective. And that's the greatest teacher, because you two are living in, not just you two, but in this situation, you
right,
two are living
sure,
in the same situation, and
right,
now you're able to discuss that situation with a real person. You're not talking to fucking Okamura or Arenberger
exactly,
or fucking Zeman.
yeah,
You're talking to your fellow citizen who's learning, living through the same bullshit as you.
exactly, and getting the real story.
Right.
Because they got ill, I didn't. And I still
Sure.
have my own view on it, and they have their own view on it, and we can
Oh,
share it.
sure. Exactly.
You know,
And you're getting the perspective of somebody who was unfortunately got really sick, right?
exactly.
And they're getting your perspective of somebody who hasn't got it yet, or
Right, right,
so
exactly, sure.
so now you're learning about the different perspectives of two different people, but who are real.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a real conversation.
Mhm.
Because if you're gonna interview somebody like fucking Ehrenberger or Blotny, you're not gonna get a real conversation. Come on,
Right.
that they're gonna have some premeditated. That conversation is gonna be so controlled about what you can and can't answer
Right.
or what you can and can't ask. It's not a
Right.
real conversation.
Yeah. Well, look at what we have here now. I mean, we want an opinion for President Zeman, and he takes in. Oh, I'll get back to you in a week.
Yeah.
Until he did what?
What the fuck you gotta think
Yeah.
about?
In a week. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you in on it or what? Or what? What do you need to think about it? This answer is clear to
Well,
everybody else except to him.
there's some people who are wanting Zeman to resign because they think that he's a foreign agent working for Russia.
Yeah.
That's a fucking conversation to be having. I don't know about that, but I do know that. I don't know, dog, because it's fucking this crazy shit, man. Because there's some people who are talking about how the fuck, it's crazy. I think Zeman he fucking needs to go, dude.
One way or the other.
Yeah, man. I mean, look, I don't understand, right? If the Czech Republic's in a situation where we're talking about democracy, but we're looking towards Russia for fucking answers. I mean, we're fucking confused like fuck, man. We're like a transgender person.
Right.
We don't know if we're a man, woman, or what. We don't know if we're democratic or fucking communist. This fucking country right now is in a place where we don't know if we want to look towards the east or the west. We're fucking confused.
All right, exactly.
So
And in the middle of COVID, fucking most dangerous malaria fucking thing, when everybody dying on the top of each other.
Right, exactly. I think. Look, I mean, if we're gonna be, if the Czech Republic, the Czech Republic always been said that the Czech Republic's motto has been that the Czech Republic is the heart of fucking Europe. Well, to me, I mean, what is the fucking most vital organs for a human being? The brain and the heart, right?
Right.
So if the fucking if Czech Republic is the fucking heart of Europe, shouldn't the Czech Republic be fucking like on top of its game, bro? Like
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like we're supposed to be running the game. You know what I mean? Like everybody should be looking towards Czech Republic to make sure that Europe functions.
Right.
Right? So and I'm saying, dude, like those people up in the fucking castle, they're fucking confused, man. Like I'm telling you, if transgenderism is a thing, which it is, right? Because there's transgender people. You're a man, you think you're a woman think you're a man. Okay, fine, do it, be it, right? But if you're fucking confused, if I'm a man, I'm confused if I'm a man or a woman. If I'm fucking confused, right? Then how the fuck are you gonna run a fucking country, bro?
I think there's more confused people than ever before. Everywhere.
Why do you think people are more confused now?
Well, because it's fucking YouTube. Misinformation.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because everybody lie, nobody's saying anything true anymore. And because people don't have to face anybody. They just go on YouTube and saying their shit, and then whatever, is it true or not true? I don't know. I cannot verify that.
Sure.
So everybody goes to these things and saying something on the Twitter. Did I say that? Say that? Oh, I apologize. I didn't mean it to say that. But it's hard. Apologize somebody in the fucking face. Talk to somebody in the eyes. I didn't mean it. How hard is that? Or say, yeah, I'm really doing that. I really hate you.
Dude, it's fucking difficult, man.
Yeah. But how many of these fucking things on Facebook being put on and taken off and put on and taken off and taken off and put it on all the time?
Sure.
Oh, I didn't mean that. So scrap that. Oh, okay. So why you said why you even bother? Who are
Sure.
you? You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
So,
that's what the thing of it is, you hear all the time how like couples break over texts, like the couple, like the
yeah,
guy says like I want to not date you anymore to the girl, or the girl says like I'm fucking cheating on you, get out of my life, or whatever the fuck it is, right?
yeah, right.
It's so dismissive, right? Because you send a
Sure,
text and it's dismissive, right?
sure.
and
Right.
and and you broke up or you break up over a text, and
Yeah,
people say
yeah,
that's bad, right?
yeah,
Why don't
sure.
you, some people say it's bad to break over text, why can't you just say something face to face? But why
Mm.
would you, but see, here's the thing, why would you break up face to face if you could do it over text? Do you know
Yeah,
what I mean?
exactly. Yeah,
Why would you
exactly.
break up face to face if you could just say like fuck off on Twitter or Facebook?
Exactly.
you
So
know
why don't
what
you
what
why would you take that uniform and the hats and the coat and a free meal and say thank you, comrade communist, and then doing that yourself? See? There you go.
right,
It's the same thing.
yeah, it's
It's
the
the
same thing, right?
same soup, you
Yeah,
know. Mm.
it's
That's exactly
dismissive.
it's a communist idea. All this Facebook, all this fucking Twitter, that's communist Marxist idea. Because it's a
Do you
lot
think
easier
so?
to deal with it. Of course it is.
Yeah. Why do you think so?
Well, because it's so easy to do it, and you don't have to use your own opinions, your own thinking, because
Right.
somebody thinking it for you. Somebody bring you the text. It's already in pretext. Fuck off. Don't see me tonight, and
Mhm,
it just types it right in, and you just press the click 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 click, and it's done in 3 seconds, and you
mhm,
don't have to
mhm.
use nothing. You don't even know what you're doing. Actually, you don't even think
Right.
about it. You just clicking it.
Mhm, mhm.
Mhm. So
Yo,
that's the
that's
thing.
true because I have that automatic texting, right?
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah.
It's all pretext, pre-type. You click it and you're done with it, and you go on with something else.
So if I understand what you're saying is that if you're using Facebook or Twitter or SMS or text messaging to break up for you, you're saying that it's not your true thoughts about the matter because it's pre-programmed in these
Sure.
programs
Yeah,
to be
absolutely.
able to for example break up with somebody,
Right.
so
Because
you're
it's so easy.
yeah,
And if you're
yeah,
taking that easy idea, how easy it is to go to work when they
right,
provide you with the solid wages or not solid wages, any wages,
right,
whatever, you
right.
go to work, you have to show up for the work. You don't have to look for the work. You're given the work, you're
Hmm,
given the
hmm.
wages, you're given the housing. That's Marxism.
Right,
That's communism. So
sure,
this is the same thing. They're giving you what to say, what to do, how to react. You just press the button and you go on with it.
right.
You're not using your own thoughts. That's debilitating.
Hmm, hmm. That's a good point. I
Yeah,
didn't think about it in that way.
that's debilitating.
Yeah,
All
so if
these
they
things are so you're an idiot.
right, so if you're so you're saying that if I want to break up with my girlfriend and all these texts are like preset in that, let's say a phone for example,
Right.
like I don't want to see you anymore, you're saying that because that's not your own thoughts, that some outside force is thinking for you,
Hmm.
that is a communist idea.
Yes,
Uh-huh.
very much
That's
so.
interesting. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
interesting. Because then that's saying that the communist idea or like a Marxist idea, that's maybe a better way to put it,
Right.
because yeah, Marxist idea is saying you don't need to do any thinking for yourself,
Hmm.
we'll do the thinking for you, but we need you to actually agree with that thought.
Exactly. All you need
Mhm.
to do is send the button. All you need to do is show up. We give you shoes, we give you
Right.
education, we teach you how to press the button, we teach you how to manage this, we teach you be a manager, we teach you everything we need you to do, we teach you.
Uh-huh.
So you just showed up,
I can see
and
why
some
that's
people,
attractive.
yeah,
Uh,
exactly. Plus, it's attractive. That's why the Facebook is very dangerous thing.
sure.
It is dangerous.
But do you
It's
think
put
that,
up for, yeah.
yeah, no,
It's put up for the people, so it's being, so they tell you it's easy, it's for you. Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying, right? That we started. We give you the land, all you have to do is put the crop in the ground. Eh? It's so hard.
right. See, this is where I'm conflicted with like Facebook, right? Because I like Facebook in one way, right? Because uh Facebook is a great way to share information, which is
Sure.
true because you can send information fast, right?
Right.
I also like Facebook for like companies who don't want to pay for a domain, and you can see what, well, for restaurants basically you can see what they
Yeah.
offer, or pubs when they're open. Facebook is a great tool for that, right?
That's already the communist idea. If you hard working for something, you have to advertise for yourself. Here you don't have to. They provide the advertisement for you. There
Uh-huh.
you there's there's laying out of it right away. They provide it
Uh-huh.
for you. Give us a like, and we do it. Where is a dislike? You cannot dislike anything. Give us a like, and we'll send you this. Give us a like, and we send you this. You
Uh-huh.
send a
Uh-huh.
dislike, and you screwed. You banned.
Right. Hmm.
Hmm?
I didn't think about it like that. So they're
Yeah,
forcing you to like something whether you
exactly.
agree with it or not.
All the time. There's no other way. They don't
That's a
ask
good
you the
point.
other way.
You're
You
right.
cannot say you have thumbs up and thumbs down, but it's always pushing forward to send us a like. It
Right.
doesn't say send us an opinion, send us what you want. No, send us a like. Why
Right.
would I
Because
like you? I don't like you.
right. They
I don't
say
have to send you anything.
that's a good point because they always because content
But
creators, that's why on this podcast I don't want to say give me a like or not this. I want people to either send me a like or dislike as they like. I
right,
don't want to
exactly.
promote that because I want people to have their,
Mhm.
of course I have to use this. See, here's the thing. I have to use this platform to be able to have this
Right,
podcast. Otherwise I
right,
wouldn't be able to.
right.
Okay, but I don't
And
want
so
to
they
say
say you're gonna have to follow certain guidelines as well.
well, that already happened, right?
Right,
Because I got
exactly.
that email.
Right.
But I don't want to say to people send me a like or dislike. I want people to do that on their own, right? Because I have
Right.
this app, right, that sends me my analytics of this
Mhm.
podcast,
Right.
and people listen to it. People are listening to the
Sure.
podcast. It's
I
great.
know.
So I don't want to make their decisions for them. So I don't want to promote that because, but
Mhm.
you make a good point about it because if people say send me a like, they never say send me a dislike,
Right.
right? They say give me a like. And the reason why they say, I'm not 100% sure, but I know that people say give me a like because they rely on advertiser money,
Right.
right? So
Well, that's
let's
part of
say
it. Yeah.
that's part of it, right? So like for example, if you're, I don't know, let's say you're Disneyland, right? I don't know. Just an example. Disneyland is catered for kids, right?
Mhm.
Mostly. So if they want to see that your content is for kids and they like you and they promote you, they're going to give ad revenue for your stream or for your channel, right? So you want them to keep being your kind of like ad sponsor. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because without them, they won't sponsor your stream. You're not going to get any revenue. Nobody's going to like you. I understand that
Right.
too, but it's kind of like fucked, you know.
Exactly.
because then you're a slave to advertisers, right? You have to be ad friendly,
Right.
you know.
There you go.
So
We advertise everything you want. You just have to like us.
right, exactly.
Mhm.
I don't want to be that,
So,
you know.
so
I want to be
you have to be in that club and following the club and following this and following that and be with us. We lead. We do this for you. We do that as you. No, that's not cool. It's not cool at all because
no,
there is eliminate that thought that you want to do something about it. Like
right,
says, well, if you want to do it, you might do it wrong. We do it much better for you. Let us fix it. Let us fix the problem for
right,
you.
sure.
Okay. So it's always about manipulating you and something which massively manipulates you. That's Marxism. That's
Yes, exactly.
absolute manipulation. You don't want
Right.
that.
Well, can I ask you a question? And the question I want to ask you is like, were you like who do you think, or from what you were able to learn, for lack of a better way to put this, is did you or were you able to learn about philosophy or um authors or reading or like for me I'll give you an example. Like for me, my favorite, one of my favorites is I like reading philosophers, like for example
Sure.
Immanuel Kant or
Right.
Voltaire or
Sure.
John Hobbes, or
Right.
all these, or these philosophers from old times. The reason why I like reading them is because they give you different perspectives of things, and how
Sure.
to educate yourself and make your own ideas. I mean, were you able to read any of these types of people or any of these types of books, or are there any philosophers that you heard of, or psychologists that you heard of, or
Well, I read some, but I assumptions mostly on my own experience and talking to people. I love to talk to people and educated people, not educated people, every kind of people, and you learn a lot from them.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
And if you just add up a book here and there about something who's really try to be achieving something, then you get
Right.
it your idea straight up really quickly.
So, were you able to read Voltaire, or was that like
No,
forbidden to
I
read?
have not read
Yeah,
Voltaire.
yeah, yeah. Or Machiavelli,
No,
or or any type of document from, I don't know, James Madison, or or
no,
or
not.
or even any. Were you able to let's not even. Were you even able to read like Sigmund Freud or Carl Jung or?
Well, I read some like other people,
Mhm.
but and like I said, mostly going through the people who are raising their opinions.
Sure.
So that's that's kind of like the education you can pick up on the street.
Right. So, but you were not able
So
to read like even like Hobbes or
well, I read some of those much later in the life, but not
right,
growing up or anything.
but you weren't able to read like Rousseau
No,
or
right.
yeah, or anybody like, yeah. So you didn't have any chance to read anybody like this.
No.
So, in your experience, were you kind of debilitated from this ability to read outside perspectives of thinking,
Yeah, of course.
or were you
But
able to
even
read like Confucius or Mencius or
but more you doing it from your own perspective that you
right?
more and think is that like make it sure that you don't follow the massive people who saying this and saying that. I never did that. I always
Sure.
followed a simple rule: just be quiet and listen, rather than jump over and be on everybody everywhere first. I don't learn like that.
So when you were you learning like more like listening rather than speaking, or
Yeah, mostly listening.
yeah?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
so when you were learning, were you listening to people like lecturers or professors, or who were you mostly listening to?
Well, I'm listening like mostly like people who are doing their own things that,
Hmm.
and done something in their life
Right.
when they were been successful or
Hmm.
haven't been successful, and you
Hmm.
just piecing it all together your own way. And
So
I
like, did you
think,
meet in like cafes
yeah,
or how?
exactly.
Yeah.
In the places, mostly private places, because we couldn't
Sure.
do anything else.
Right.
Private places, private seminars and stuff like
Hmm.
that.
Hmm.
And that's how you do it.
And so, like, how did you get your kind of life? My question is, how did you get your life kind of view, or how did you form your own opinion from listening to all these people that you met? Basically, is what I'm asking. How were you able to think for yourself?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think you just have to put the sense together of what is good for you, what is
Right.
good for me. How do I benefit out of it? Let's
Right.
say you listen to something, you go listen and you go listen to Scientology and then say, well, how do I benefit out of this? Well,
Hmm.
there's no benefit because all they asking for your money.
Hmm. Hmm.
So they asked me for give them my savings books. I said, well, listen, all I have is this money. It's all I have. And
I
if
don't
I
got
give it
fucking
to you,
savings.
what is it good for me?
Right.
Just well, we
Sure.
give you the job, but if you give me the job and what's happened tomorrow, give you all the savings. I need to pay the rent,
Sure.
and for some reason, I make that decision that this is not good for me. This is not the way I want to go, bro.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't need
Yeah.
to give you all my savings at this point. Even you offer me a job and money and everything else, but right now you ask me for all my money at now, today, right now.
Right.
You're asking me for all my money.
Yeah.
And what's happened tomorrow when I give you all my money and you never call me back? Where do I know that
Sure.
you call me back or not?
Yeah.
So that
Exactly.
I
How the
work.
fuck do you know that? Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I work hard for saving my money and do my own control my own life. I learned to control my life in very early stages for
Yeah.
certain reasons, you
So
know.
can I? So I was gonna. Yeah. I understand that for sure. I was gonna ask you. Do you think that it's like? Do you think going to the Scientology thing, right? That those people asked you for all your money that day, and that you were skeptical what was going to happen the next day, right?
Right,
Do you think that? Do you think that those people who don't have a lot of money, right? Or do you think that because you were starting to make money, right? And because from my personal experience, uh, making money and being able to save money and keep a little bit of money and it it taught me what money has taught me. This is what money has taught me. Money has taught me to be more frugal with my money, if you understand me.
right,
Meaning, now that I was able to, different way. When I was younger and I didn't have any money or wasn't making enough money that I thought was enough for me, I was very upset at the system I was living in because it was very attractive, all this shit, right? Because I didn't have any money. I wanted to have money at the moment.
right,
Now that I know that I've been making money, I'm able to save money a little bit. all that shit that I learned when I was younger doesn't make any sense to me at all, right? Because now that I'm more conservative now than I was when I was younger because I didn't have any money. I don't have money now, but I have enough money that I know that I am a little bit more conservative. I'm not interested in Scientology, giving all my money. Any money I earn, I want to keep for myself, right?
Right.
The more money I've been making, the more that I want to keep it for myself. I think I think like Scientology, for example, would be attractive for somebody who doesn't know where their next paycheck is going to come from. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Right. It seems attractive. You give them money, they give you a job, they give you housing, they give you all this shit, and that's it. You're locked in, right? We all locked in, baby. You know what I'm saying? Like, but
Exactly.
I think when people start making money, people become conservative a lot, I think.
No, probably. Yeah, sure. Because if you have to earn something by yourself, I mean, it gets a lot more value that you think that somebody gave you something.
Right.
Actually,
Because you earned it yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? You worked hard for that money, so now you have that money, and you don't want to get rid of that money so quickly.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
and I have a choice of using it the way I wanted to use.
Exactly.
And I don't need to ask, or I don't need to ask for, or be attracted that I get a uniform and a suit. I don't want to get a uniform. I want to get a T-shirt and a hamburger.
Right.
So none of those offers were attractive enough for me. So I don't know what else the Marxists have to do, but they don't attract enough people. But I don't want to give them any hints.
I understand you. Yeah. No. But then what type of person, in your opinion, would Marxist ideology like attract? Who would that be attractive to, or what type of?
Where that started, it attracts the people in the factories where it was dusty, dirty, no health care, no good enough salary, long hours, right? That's not attractive. Would it be attractive if you have to work from 16 hours a day? If they tell you you only have to work 10 hours a day?
No, that wouldn't.
Well, yeah.
That wouldn't be attractive. To work 16 hours, I mean.
Right, exactly. So they work 16 hours. People work long hours all the time. These people, they drain them to death. They didn't care. So it's attractive to lower the working hours, and after that, to give you some time to go and do a shopping or do the laundry, and give you more time for reading, whatever it is, Marxist Leninism, but you read our books a little bit longer. So,
but wouldn't that be
that was a major attraction for people, and still is.
But wouldn't that be good though, that you can work less, make the same amount of money, and be able to educate yourself? That seems kind of like a good deal, though.
Not sure.
Yeah,
it is. So, well, some of these social things are good and helpful, but it have to be selectively done. It have to be proper.
I mean, if I had a choice, right? I mean, if I had to work in look, I don't know it, right? Because the world the world I was born into has nothing to do with working in a fucking factory. But if I had to work in a factory for like 18 hours or having a podcast for a couple hours, I would choose the podcast every day. You know what I mean? I would choose that.
Right.
I don't want to fucking work in a factory.
But that's what the early capitalism, where these people took over these people and just drained them to death. So something had to be done.
Sure. Well, that's why they
Yeah.
created those unions, right? To make sure that you work only, you can't be like 6 years
Well,
old and working in an iron smelting factory.
exactly. Well, unions
Well,
are another fucking mafia communist idea. So it's something else.
well, sure,
But
sure. Yes, that's
but
true. Well,
no.
yeah, but before this
Yeah,
shit,
exactly.
you
Sure.
know,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
they kind of fought for people to work 8 hours a day and
right. Sure. Yeah.
underage labor. You can't have kid labor. That's fucking
Right.
crazy.
Right. So some of these things are have to be done, and it
Sure.
will be done either way. But they don't
Right.
have to push it people's throat and then change their own idea to something. Whatever we have now is completely out of whack.
Right. I mean,
No.
you know, well, I have to when I was, 18, 19, I was kind of, fighting myself, and that's what Jordan Peterson was kind of talking about. And I agree with him. I don't agree with everything, but
Right.
what he was saying is that he's saying that, which I don't need Jordan Peterson to tell me this. I already knew that, but he was basically saying your own worst enemy is yourself, right? Because
Sure.
you're the one that fucking does all this shit. You do drugs, that's on you, player.
Yeah. Exactly.
You go have sex with prostitutes, that's on you. You did
You
that.
always have
Nobody's
that choice. You always have a choice which you
right,
get to think
exactly.
of.
You're the one that
Yeah.
either tells you to fuck your life up or do something good with your life. You're the one that
Right.
decides that,
Exactly.
right? So and
If you living in the free space, not by Facebook and Marxist-Leninism,
right, if you're in a space where you can live your
because
life
there
as you
there
like.
you cannot do that. Marxism doesn't allow you to do that. That's not
Right,
allowed.
right, because it's a from
You have to
top to
think
bottom.
what they want.
Sure.
So
But who decides
that's what
that?
we have to fight for.
Who but who decides that, right? Like who decides? See, that's what I don't understand about Marxism, right? This is the thing I don't understand. Is who decides what is best for you? Who decides that?
You,
Stalin?
no, you
Right,
just said
me.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
me, right?
exactly.
Exactly. So if you're telling me that Marxism, so Karl Marx is telling me what is best for me, I don't,
Mhm.
or Stalin, or Khrushchev, or Brezhnev, or because I have to use that example because that was pushed forward, But I mean, you're telling me that Karl Marx wrote a document that Leon Trotsky has to tell me how I'm supposed to live my life. I never understood that.
Right.
If
And
myself is
it's
my
been
own
pushed
worst,
up,
yeah.
in that I now people, maybe you think they may have more choices today, but they
Hmm.
be pushed in the same corners today.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
that people don't, because we have obscure education, we have not true education, we don't have a true communication, we don't have a true news broadcast, we have all these lies being broadcast, we have all these other different things, and miscommunication and uh, uh, not a it's lies everywhere. So
Right.
we're living in the same similar war when this started, when this capitalism was in the early stages. Like I
Hmm.
said, people work long hours, dusty conditions, terrible conditions, mostly jobs been like coal mines, or factory when they smelting copper and all
Hmm.
these heavy industries and stuff like that. They were starting up, and people push big heavy wagons and been doing machinery work. With machinery wasn't in early stages, so people have to rope the things, right? So they
Right.
were slaves. They were basically slaves. They have nothing else to do.
Right.
Very little money,
Sure.
bad food, no doctors.
Right.
So that was very applicable to these people. And even, Marx was from the wealthy family. He never worked his fucking life.
No,
But
no,
yet
no.
he invented something like this for other people.
Sure.
He said, hey, you don't have to do this. It would be better if you work 10 hours. No. Well, yeah, that would be better.
But doesn't it seem kind of
Because
hypocritical to you that this guy, Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels, they were Germans who were living in London at the time, or in England, I don't know. And they were upper class. Don't you think it's kind of hypocritical that upper class people were telling upper class people in London at the time?
It's what I just said the other day. Hypocritical equals communist.
Sure.
Oh, there you go.
Well, can you expand on that? What does it mean, hypocriticals or communists?
Well, because they always tell you something and do other things, and communists do exactly the same thing. They tell you what you want to hear. They really don't follow that. Them, they don't do it. That's just Marx started it. He tells you do something, but he never done it. He was a wealthy person.
Sure.
He never needed a 10-hour job. He never needed a doctor. He could go to doctor wherever he wants. He read the books wherever he wants, but he wants you to read his books. He wants you to do whatever he said.
So what do you think that he was like a marketer, or do you think he was like kind of like a, I guess, like a Saul Alinsky at the time, or
he is the man. Saul Alinsky is follower.
Right. So do you think let me reword the question. Do you think that Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels, do you think they really cared about the shit that they wrote, or they just wrote a book to make money?
Well, I have no proof of any of that, or I don't know.
Right.
But they've been chatting shit, and they didn't need to do that, but they creating this and it's.
I guess what I'm trying to say is, do you think? Because I don't know. For me, I don't know, but I will give my opinion after. But I think, do you think that when Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels wrote that book, do you think that they were serious about whether or not that people would follow that book? Because remember, that book fell into obscurity. They wrote it in 1848. Nobody gave a fuck about it until 1917, right?
Yeah.
So do you think that they were trying to make money, or do you think that people were going to be on board with it, or it's hard?
I think it's similar, just like today, just like the Facebook. Okay, the guy really created it in his locker room, in his in his room, right? And Harvard, and says, would it be great if we can communicate really quickly one to another? I think they made something good, but I don't think they I think that started a similar way when they were studying about something. So would it be better if these people don't really have to work that hard? Would it be something better? I mean, they must interview thousands of people and living in the area when it's full of crazy stuff, and says, would it really be better if we work less and make better living for yourself? I mean, they maybe were honest about it, but it got screwed in the process and took away from them, just like the Facebook got took away. Look at how millions of money they're making. They don't know what to do with it.
Sure.
It's completely out of whack now, and there's no way of stopping it.
So do you think that Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels actually meant well at that time? That, like, say, like, look, 1850, this is fucked up. We need people to live better lives.
Maybe,
maybe, right? I don't know. This is all this fucking,
I don't know. I'm not a Marxist. I haven't investigated all this.
No, yes, I
I'm
know,
not
I know.
reading. I'm not reading their bullshit, and I'm not interested about it. So
No, 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 no. I know, I know. No,
I
no,
don't
no.
know enough about them to know, but I know something about them, and I think they might meant well,
Right, that's what
but
I'm saying. Do you think that
no,
they like at the time that it was written? I mean, I don't mean
right,
1950s, 1960s. I mean in what I'm trying to
right.
say
In
is
their birth of this, it could have been the idea when they meant well.
right, that's what I'm trying to say, right? Do you think
Yeah,
that they actually meant well for people in 1848, 1849, 1850 and whatever that said, "Look, this is fucked up and we want to make something better for people at that time,"
right.
right?
Yeah, it's possible, but I don't want to make it to something like when compare it to creating a constitution of United States.
Sure. Yes.
If
Yes,
people meant as well.
right. I understand
They
what you're
didn't
saying.
create, they didn't create this.
No, no, no. Yes, I understand completely what you're saying. What I'm trying to say
You
is, do
know,
you think that this was a document that was a reactionary document to the life situation at that time?
yeah, absolutely. I think so. Yeah, it
Yeah,
was.
and at that time they were trying to protect. I guess I don't know. I can't. I don't know.
Well, I
I'm only
wouldn't say
speculating.
protect, but they try
Mm,
to create something else. Let's put it that
to
way.
improve the life of people at that time. I'm assuming.
Maybe, yeah.
I don't know.
I
I don't
wouldn't give
know.
them that much credit, but because I'm not in
Right.
of that, whatever happened after. So I
Sure.
really don't know. I cannot read Engel's mind.
Well,
So
nobody can. That dude's been dead for 100 and
yeah,
yeah,
God bless. Yeah,
sure. Yeah. No, no, I'm not trying to defend them. I'm only trying to ask questions about what they were
right,
thinking at that time. That's
right,
all I'm
right,
doing.
right.
Yeah. Because
Yeah. Presumptuously, we can say that they try to make it something different. Let's put it that way. I wouldn't say better or worse, but
right,
something different.
sure.
Yeah.
But
And I don't
different
know
from
why,
yeah.
because
Mhm.
it didn't benefit them in any way. They didn't need that for
That's what I'm
themselves.
saying.
So that's
So
kind of a
so
hard situation.
right. So that's what I'm
You
saying. Were
know,
they just trying to sell books then or
if you compare to Lech Walesa, who was an electrician locked up in the fucking dog factory,
uh-huh,
you
uh-huh.
know,
Right.
and try to take the whole country and do something different, that's completely different story,
Sure.
right?
So
So
that's what
he
I'm
needed
that
to do that, and people wanted him to do that. He was one of them, but this guy wasn't one of them. He was a wealth person.
well, he was writing from an outside perspective
Yeah,
too.
right. He didn't
So
need to
that's
do
what
that for himself, or why would you do that?
that's what my
Kind of,
question is. That's one of my
it's kind
questions
of,
is
yeah.
is he do was he just trying to sell books for money basically?
Mhm. Yeah, that could be one of the reasons as well.
You know, you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
maybe
sure.
Karl Marx was this
Or
guy,
his own ego to do
right?
something else. Yeah,
You know, maybe he was like maybe he was a YouTuber. I know YouTube wasn't
yeah,
listeners.
sure.
I understand
Right,
that YouTube wasn't around, but maybe he was a celebrity. I don't know, right? And like there's YouTubers now who write books, right? Like memoirs and
right,
shit.
sure. Yeah.
Maybe he just wrote a book. Maybe he was already famous enough, and then he just wrote this book. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
I,
No,
I
of
don't
course,
know.
because of course, look at if we're saying that you are the one who controls your life, so he controls
Mhm.
his life well, right?
Right.
So there you go. But he fucked up everybody else's life. But he controlled his
Exactly.
own life, and that's he did what he needs it to do.
Yeah, and so to control his own life, he made a book, he wrote a book, and then he
Yeah,
sold it. It got published. He probably made a lot
sure.
of money from
Right,
it.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know,
sure.
I don't know, but it's just so fascinating to me, this time period. You know what I mean? For me, it's fascinating because this is the time period where the industrial revolution is taking place. People are getting, the modern cities are taking place. People are urbanizing. Technology is expanding. People are getting more educated. People are expanding their worldviews, and the world is changing in such a rapid pace,
right,
that this is the stage. This time period is the stage that started my modern life. This is the time period where all this shit happened, and now I'm a product of that fucking history.
You said it all. There you go.
You know what I mean? Like I'm from that. I'm a product of that.
Sure,
And my life and all these things that is available to me is a product from whatever happened in that time.
right.
I don't know anything about it. Those fucking 1914 to 1918. What the fuck? I don't know anything about it.
Yeah.
Those, I don't know what happened between 1861 and 1918. How can I? I am not alive at that time.
Right.
It's so fucking fascinating. That's more fascinating than medieval times, to be honest.
Yeah, right. Sure.
Because to me, medieval times is like, I don't know, it's too far for me.
Mm.
I mean, it's fascinating, like King Henry VIII. Fascinating dude. I get it, right? But it's so far back that I can't even imagine what life is like about. I can imagine that life in 1914 is pretty similar to life now, just with different technology.
Right.
I don't know. For me, it's more interesting. That's my personal opinion.
But medieval is probably the same thing with different technology. I mean, you have a sickle and you didn't have a
hammer.
You have a hammer, but you didn't have a
sickle.
No, no, you didn't have a car or whatever. You have a wagon, right?
Sure.
Spaceship or airplane, but you still went around. I mean, people travel thousands of miles to go to the ocean.
So. Yeah, dude. Think about that's a good point. I just read about that I just looked up a list of the oldest companies, oldest businesses, and it was like a fucking 400 AD, right?
Yeah.
There was a fucking hotel opened up in Japan in 400 AD, man.
There you go.
A fucking hotel, that's where you check in, get a key, and all that shit. Room service and all that bullshit. That was in 400, man.
There you go. The guy knows.
Dude, that guy knows, man.
Yeah. Mr. Hilton of DC.
That's what I'm saying. So if he's opening up a Hilton in Japan, right, in 400, I mean, that tells you right there that there was tourism.
Yeah, of course it was. So people just went for no particular reason. He wasn't sent there. He wasn't a soldier. He wasn't that. He just decided to walk over there somehow.
Yeah, to fucking Japan and was there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sure.
Dude, that's fucking crazy, man.
There's a lot of things we don't know.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
I mean, so there you go. That like you said, that raises an interesting question. I mean, if there was a hotel in 400 AD, then how much was life different than it is now? Probably not that much as far as what people like to do.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But the technology is, of course.
Yeah, he didn't have a jet ski.
Right.
But he had to go somewhere to eat.
Sure.
And have a drink, and have to sleep somewhere, and you have to walk somewhere, tell him, look at here, we dump. If you motherfucker would dump you in this hole, oh, stay away from that hole. But there were some interesting points in Japan. So we hang people over here, and this way we cut their fingers off. Oh,
See,
nice. Why are you here?
but then, so you brought up an interesting question, right? So does that mean that people were actually that violent to cut off people's hands, or do you see here? This is what I don't understand. If there was a hotel at this point, then was it actually violent as what we learned in history, or was it just peaceful and there was only some people who encountered this shit?
Yeah. That's something to think about.
Right. I mean,
because we don't know much. We know about massacre, right? There was 300 Spartans who kill all these motherfuckers, and that's all we have from the history. But we didn't know if there was a one guy who didn't want to kill anybody. He just wanted to go to a hotel.
Yeah.
There's no archives of that, right? We only know about these barbarians, that there was a massacre somewhere.
But dude, there's got to be one guy who just wants to sleep in a hotel, man.
Yeah, exactly. I said, I don't want to kill nobody.
Yeah.
Not lately. But if I need to kill him, I do it.
Well, yeah, but do you really think that everybody was killing everybody at that time? I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I don't think I want to. I don't know if I can believe that. Otherwise, I wouldn't be alive today if everybody was killing everybody.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point, because everybody will be dead.
Yeah.
But they portray everybody like everybody walks with some kind of weapon, and they live under a tree or walk under a tree or live there, and boom, 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 boom. And they cutting each other's throat right away when they met. They said, hey, how are you? What the fuck are you doing? Where are you going? Oh, I'm going to Japan. No, they met and they cut each other's throat, and who survived get on moving. So I don't. That's weird, right?
Yeah, that's weird. That doesn't seem like what we would be doing.
I know. But that's what we kind of like learning, that everybody's throat.
Yeah. I mean, I know there were wars and people were killing each other. I understand that, but I don't think that was like daily life, that everybody's fucking killing everybody.
Yeah.
That seems kind of crazy.
But it was pretty much tribal living. We know that.
We do know that. That's true.
And if you follow out of that tribe, they know why, because they have the same kind of rules, because they kick somebody out of the tribe because you didn't follow the rules. So they throw you out, and then you have to pay mercy to some other tribe. Maybe you've been attractive to the other tribe, but if you become a loner. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what we're learning, right?
Right.
That it was tribal, and if you get kicked out of the tribe, you were kind of fucked.
Sure.
Because you live on your own.
But what happens if you were like, let's look at it this way, right? Let's look at it this. If you were like a Roman citizen, I don't mean a fucking slave or look, Roman citizen means you were a citizen of Rome, which is Italian, right?
Right.
So what happens if you're a Roman citizen and you just wanted to travel? Like you just wanted to say, like, look, I don't want to fight nobody. I just want to go and like I just want to travel. Like, did they have? They must have had that. Like, I just want to go on vacation to fucking, I don't know, fucking Poland or whatever, or
yeah, I don't know.
You know what I'm saying? I don't. That would be insane for everybody to keep fighting everybody all the time.
Right.
It doesn't seem plausible to me. I mean, what happens if a guy just said, "Look, I want to take my wife and my kids. We want to go to the fucking beach. Let's go to fucking Croatia."
Who's gonna milk the cows? Oh, I'll milk them when I come back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it was acceptable. I don't think they think that the people fought that way. They were
so everybody just thought about killing everybody all the time.
Well, or for their survival, it was part of their staying alive.
Uh-huh.
I think they have to worry about it a lot.
Uh-huh.
You
So
know,
you couldn't just go to like Sandy Beach in Bulgaria for like sunbathing.
no, I don't think so.
Otherwise, you're gonna get killed,
Right. You're
dude.
lucky if you lived there,
Right.
but if you didn't, then you know,
Well, what happens if you live in like fucking what is that popular? What is the place? What is it in Bulgaria? Vara? Vara? No, Varga.
Varna, Varna.
Varna.
Yeah.
So Varna is next to the beach, right? And you were living
Go,
in fucking Rome. You couldn't go to
go,
Varna, you'd get killed.
Golden Beach.
Yeah, Golden Beach. You were like,
Yeah.
I want to take my wife and kids. I want to go to Varna. It's not possible. You just get killed.
It's not possible for you at this time. You have to stay
You
here
have to
with your
stay here with your wife.
with your tribe.
Yeah.
That's what the shaman said.
So the shaman says, "Don't go to Bulgaria. You're gonna get fucking murdered, or what?"
Yeah, exactly. I think so.
Dude, I don't know, man. That seems kind of wild.
Yeah.
That seems crazy, man.
I don't think they have that many choices.
They didn't have many holiday days.
No, exactly.
They couldn't take any sick days.
Yeah. Yeah. What is
Dude,
the
that must be.
holiday? Fuck
Dude, that's
you,
got.
the mammoths is passing. Go get your copy, get your fucking slingshot, and we go get him. Now? Are we not attacking the bull now? Oh, yes, we are.
That's gotta be fucked up, bro. I don't want to be
Because
hunting any bulls with you.
I know. One hell of a time telling me.
Dude, I never shot a bull before, Julius Caesar. Dude, it's gotta be wild, man.
Yeah, dude.
Dude,
Wild.
that seems more wild than like today.
Mhm. This is less intense than Marxism.
But do you think that the people were happier? Do you think people were happy, or they didn't like, or didn't give a fuck about that, or
Yeah, they have to think about it because they make like jewelry, they make all those things, you know, they did like a cups, they create the dishes. They've been creative. Even the weapons, they put something on them, and everybody has a different thing and different handle, and
but but
eventually,
that's never talked about, right? Like how people lived. I mean, people got to be depressed, right? I mean, how do you feel about that? Depressed.
depressed.
I mean,
Yeah, right. No,
I mean, see, that's what's interesting to me. I mean, what happens if you're depressed in like fucking Egypt, right? In fucking
yeah.
2000 BC. Do you
Everybody
think they
were
had?
depressed because they have to build the pyramids every day from sun from dawn to dusk.
Dude, that's got to be depressing, dog. But
How
do
long
you
did you
think
do
they
it?
had? Do you
40
think they
years?
had psychologists back then?
Yeah, sure. Sure they did. What do you need? Okay, give him 25. Okay.
Yo, instead of 24 hours, give them 25 hours.
Yeah, exactly. I want to work less. Okay, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, okay. Just kill that fool.
Yeah, dump him. Get rid of him. He doesn't want to work anymore.
But
If
dude, did you
you,
see that? Did you see that? Did you see the article about? It was last week. They found that golden city or that lost city.
yeah, something, yeah.
Yeah, did you read about that?
No, not really.
Yeah, they found a city close to the pyramids.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and they think that was the where the workers lived.
Right. If you have an old Egyptian, kill him and get a new Egyptian, young one.
Dude, I don't know, bro. Look, I saw this. I saw this kind of like a documentary on YouTube, right? And it was called something like how they built the pyramids.
Oh,
Okay, so there was this lady, and this was maybe a 3-year-old documentary, right? And the dude this Egyptian dude was like sanding a block of the stone,
Right.
with another stone.
Sure.
Okay. And this
How long
bitch,
that takes?
dude, come on, man. That dude was like not even halfway done sanding. Look, you're sanding stone with a stone,
Right.
right? And that dude was like buff, right? And so the lady tried it and she stopped after 5 minutes and she said, "This is how the ancient Egyptians did this shit."
Yeah, right.
And I was like, "Bitch, you can't even handle 5 minutes. What do you think? You think that the Egyptians can do this all day, every day?
Yeah, right.
And so they were sanding this stone with a stone, and that's how the
Right.
the outside of the pyramids looks so smooth,
Right. I
And
know.
I was thinking to myself, right? This is what's interesting to me, right? And they were saying like one of the pyramids is one of the pyramids of ancient Pharaoh Corfu or Kofu or Kefru or
Yeah.
I don't know. And I was thinking to myself, if it is actually a tomb for this guy, for this pharaoh, right?
Mhm.
Wouldn't that pyramid have to be finished within his lifetime?
Yeah. But they weren't.
But no, like what I'm trying to say is like if you're King Henry VIII, right? And you say to the people of England, and you say, "I want to be buried in this church," and they say, "King Henry VIII, this church isn't built yet." So King Henry VIII says, "Build me this church. I want to be buried in it."
Right.
So wouldn't that church have to be finished before the king died?
Well, you would think so, but
So
what does
so
it matter if he's already dead? Doesn't matter to him. So
no, it doesn't
somebody have to
matter. But
follow
no,
the
but
order.
but the point of it is, my point is, if this is a tomb, if the pyramid is a tomb for one fucking pharaoh,
Yeah.
it would have to be. Look, if I'm a pharaoh, if I'm King Henry VIII, let's
You want it done.
yeah, think about it in a different way. If I'm King Henry VIII, I want to be buried in a church, and you're telling me that the church is going to take 600 years to build. What the fuck? Right? I want to be
Right.
buried in this church now before I die. So those people would have to build that church
Gotta keep on
within
moving,
right.
fellas.
It would have to be within his lifetime and finished more or less around his lifetime, right?
Mm.
So
Yeah.
if you live 100 years old, that pyramid would have to be built within 100 years, not 1,000 years. Because
Okay.
because if the
You wouldn't
pyramid
be able to
look
put him in there.
right, because if the pyramid took 600 years to build, what the fuck is my body doing? I would already be ash.
Well, that's why they have those mummifying shit.
Okay, so now here's my question: if the pyramid took 1,000 years, 600 to 1,000 years to build, where do they have my mummified body
Well,
hidden?
he was in the basement there. Most of it,
Basement
there's
where? In the
nobody
pyramid?
below it somewhere. Yeah,
So that's what I'm saying. So if
on the
he's
side
already
of it.
in the pyramid in the basement, why the fuck would they continue to build the pyramid?
No, because there was another guy behind him.
Right, but if let's put it this way: if you're King Henry VIII, you
Finish the
die.
job.
They put you in the basement of a church, and then I'm King George III in 1776, 300 years or 500 years later. Why the fuck would I continue to build King Henry VIII's church?
No.
You see what I'm saying? That doesn't make sense to me. So the pyramids
Yeah.
would have to be built within that person's lifetime.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. If you look at it that way, yeah.
that's how I look at it.
Right.
Otherwise, who would keep? I mean, Cleopatra. That's the most famous Egyptian
Well, how
woman.
did they say how long it took to build it?
I don't know, but I mean, if it took more than 100 years, why would you keep building something for somebody who's been dead already?
Well, well, like these churches, they've been built for a long time, like the castles too. They've been built for a long time, maybe 2 or 3 centuries. They still building them
Sure, that's
today.
interesting to me. Why would you keep
Yeah.
building something that's been started 300 years earlier?
Well, but you're looking only for like these people. Like, look at that's the same thing. Like you're looking at it like the we don't if you're looking at like the past history, we don't even know who our great grandfather was, right? Because we're stupid.
Right,
But these kings and stuff, it's been signed to. That's why they have the biggest fucking castle in the country, and they have books and everything's written down, so everybody knows. But it's
right.
the only one person, so you have to do it for that one person, right?
Sure.
It's you talking about one guy, like you
I
said, one
know.
pharaoh, and everybody working for him. So
But if the
everything
pharaoh,
is written down about
Mhm,
him. All
mhm,
about him, and we don't know nothing about those fuckers who built it. We
sure,
don't know nothing about the guy who was slaving that, and or not slave, whatever. So they don't cut us
right,
off.
right. But but
We don't
but
know
let's say
nothing about them. We know everything about the pharaoh. We found him. He's in the sarcophagus.
right.
So
But
it's all about that one guy. So he make it to be built because that's his family.
okay, but
That's his own thing, and his family building it, and the family continues on for thousands of years.
sure. But let's look at King Tut, right? He's the most famous Egyptian that
Right,
everybody knows, right? Tutankhamun,
right,
right? He was found in that tomb, elaborate tomb, and whatever.
right.
Okay, but why would they? And he was buried. They say, I don't know. This is only speculation, right? He was killed or dead at 19 or 18, right? Now, why would they keep building a tomb for him for 400 years? I don't understand. Right? Why would they keep building something for him? He's 20 years, let's say 20 years from 1400 or whatever the fuck his years are, for 1400 BC to 1380 BC. He was alive, and they kept building for another 50 years his tomb. I don't understand. Why would you keep doing that? There's all the other pharaohs, other families, other
Right.
fucking bullshit. Other why would the government of Egypt or whatever at the time keep funding to keep building a tomb for King Tutankhamun? I don't understand.
Mm. I don't know
What
what to
would be the
ask
point
him.
when there's for 100 years after, that's 3 generations of different pharaohs and different families.
Right. Yeah.
And that's what's interesting for me. Why would you keep building something for that?
Mhm.
I don't, that's why
He
I
was the
think that,
greatest.
yeah,
He was the greatest.
okay, he was the greatest. I understand. But if he's the greatest, if he's the greatest person, I
We
mean,
cannot build it any faster than that. It's
sure,
doing what we can, dude.
right.
Yeah.
But I still think those
Do you
pyramids would
try to
have
do
to.
you try to shave the stone with another stone?
I've never done that. I don't even
Yeah.
want to try that.
So it takes a while.
I know. But for me, what I think, those pyramids would have to be built within 100 years. I truly believe that. Why the fuck would you build that 1,000 years later? I don't
Mm,
understand. That doesn't make any sense to me, to keep building something that was 1,000 years old.
well, different.
I think those pyramids, to be honest, I could be wrong. I'm probably wrong, but I think those pyramids were built within 50 years.
Well, Yeah, but they couldn't be built by the way the technology they're using as those techniques. That's impossible to do that. They
I
already
agree.
know. I mean, if you have that many, they know how many stones in it, and if you have to shave every one of them by this kind of technique, it's impossible to build it.
Sure. But whatever technique they had, it was within 50 years, I think. No longer than that.
No,
I don't believe
and
that they would continue to build something from 2000 BC all the way up till 44 BC. That's 1,600 years. I don't believe that.
exactly. Unless we
I don't
didn't
think
build it.
or that. But I think I watched a documentary how they built the pyramids. I think most people, not most people, one theory is that they had a big ramp going up to the pyramid.
Right.
Another theory is they had a series of ramps going up to the top. But the latest theory is that they had a series of ramps, but going from the inside out.
Yeah.
And to me, that makes more sense because they did that with the Chrysler building. They built it from the inside out, and they brought the top of the Chrysler building through the building up to the top and placed it.
Right.
It doesn't make
That's
sense.
why it become
Yeah.
a tallest building in one point because they threw that antenna through inside. Nobody knew they're gonna do that.
And it went from the inside out, right?
Right. Yeah.
Because it's so fucking tall, they didn't have enough technology to put it on the outside in.
Right. Exactly.
I think that the pyramids
But there
were
is
built
no door on the bottom. Nobody could get out of that thing.
right.
Nobody
I
could get
think
out of the pyramid.
I think the pyramids were built from the inside out. I believe that.
Not sure.
Well, nobody's sure because it's fucking old, but
Yeah.
I think, I mean, maybe the. Do you know about the Mayans? Did you read about the Mayans? They just
Yeah.
left.
Yeah, exactly. Right. They just went somewhere.
Maybe they fucking got it right, dude.
Why did you stop the 3,000-year-old calendar? I just got tired.
I'm tired.
Yeah, I'm tired. I'm gonna stop now.
Maybe they were like Forrest Gump, like fuck,
Exactly.
dude. I'm pretty tired.
I'm pretty tired. I'm
I'm
running
gonna
out
go
of
home.
stone. I'm running out of stone.
Yeah, I'm gonna go home, and they just fucking went to fucking Neptune or wherever the fuck they live.
Yeah, exactly.
They probably got it right, dude. They probably said,
What's about us? Oh, fuck you.
Fuck you.
You're on your own. You're on your own shit now.
They probably said like to their followers like, "Fuck you, dude. I'm going home."
Yeah. It's crazy, man.
But they probably got it right, dude. They probably said like, "Fuck this shit. We're getting invaded and fucking killed, and it's fucking dangerous here, man."
Yeah, man.
Oh man.
Listen, man.
But I don't know, dude.
Getting on 3 hours here.
Yeah, I know, man. It's getting on 3 hours, dude. Well, I think we can top the 3-hour mark, man. Come on.
This guy.
Dude.
I know, man.
I don't know, man. But yeah, no. I know. I mean, there's like, it's interesting about the world and the history of humans is very interesting, and there is a lot of unanswered questions that.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That are not readily available to people, or they are, but they're not presented in the correct way.
Right. And sometimes, I think they're looking at it like you look at a stone and they say like, "Well, this looks like an elephant."
Yeah.
Or you look at a cloud, this looks like a dog.
Yeah.
And the other guy, or cloud.
Yeah.
Or this looks like a flower or a cloud. So it's the same thing, right? We're looking something and what it looks like a pyramid. Yeah, I don't know, or triangle, or what is it? I don't know what it is, or what is it doing here.
Right.
I mean, nobody knows what is it about.
Sure.
We're just talking about it, but nobody knows what is it about. So it could be a pyramid or triangle, and who gives a fuck?
And to be honest, like, I don't mean it like this, but I mean, like, who gives a fuck? I mean, it doesn't bother me in any way. Okay, so it's a tomb. No, it's not a tomb. It was a power plant. Okay, it's a power plant.
Right, exactly.
It's
or some kind of window or triangle or navigation system.
Yeah.
Whatever it is.
Whatever it is, like, who gives a fuck? It doesn't change my life path at all.
Right, exactly.
You could literally tell me it was all three of those things. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, right.
But I don't know. But anyway, it's like, I think. But my point is, I think there's a lot of things in history, in human history, especially history with humans, is that a lot of it is just about fighting and shit. You know what I mean? You learn about history and everybody's battling everybody. I mean, that can't be. I mean, if there were,
right.
if there was restaurants in 1300s, I mean, that means that people went to restaurants. It doesn't mean that everybody's fucking fighting everybody.
Right. No, they've been singing and drinking ale.
Yeah. I mean, what the fuck? You're singing and drinking ale. That doesn't mean you're fucking fighting everybody. Why would you do that?
Yeah.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that we are humans are always fighting one another. I mean, look, right now we're living from 1949 to now in the greatest peace ever.
Right.
Right? If it's true that we were fighting every time, every minute, every moment, right? Now we're living in the greatest peace of the world. There's battles here and there, but it's relatively world peace everywhere.
Exactly.
Humans don't fight everybody all the time. Why would you do that? We don't roll like that,
Well, yeah, well, they did.
Well, they did, but
I guess, like, we think they did. And I know why we think they did, but we didn't do that now. But
sure.
But in recent history, we've been fighting a lot. Everybody been fighting each other.
Well, there's a lot of wars all the time.
All right.
But we've had a lot of wars. That's true. Yeah. We've had a lot of wars. Yeah. From 1776 to 1949. Well, even farther into Vietnam War, but and the Iraq War, which we fight all the time. That's true.
Yeah.
But only a certain percentage of the population fights.
Right.
Not everybody fights.
And everywhere, yeah.
Right.
True, yeah.
Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to survive. I mean, think about it. If the 100% of one population fought 100% of the other population, it would be total annihilation.
Right.
Everybody would kill each other, basically.
Well, that's what they were saying, and there is no, how did they say, no survivors. So they went even on the field and kill everybody who was little moving. So if you win the war, everybody on the other side were dead.
That's not a good war, bro. if everybody's dead.
Yeah. So, it's crazy.
Dude, it's crazy, man. Dude, but switching topics a little bit, man, getting fucking away from this war, dude, we just witnessed this week the first leg of the European League, and this week was the Champions League, man.
I know, man.
Dude, did you watch any of the matches?
I didn't have a chance that much to watch it.
Yeah.
I'm not really updated on that.
Yeah. But... Did you watch the Arsenal match last night?
Yeah, I watched the Arsenal. Well, I actually rewatched it this morning.
Yeah.
I sort of, 6 minutes, they scored the first goal and Arsenal. I said, oh,
So you just said, I shut this shit off.
Yeah, fuck this. Yeah.
Did you watch the whole match?
Yeah, after, yeah.
Yeah. So what did you think about it?
Well, I think Arsenal should lose some players.
Yeah. Who in particular?
Lose them all. I don't know. There's like a whole bunch of guys I never heard of.
Right? I mean, there's like guys that are like,
I don't know where they got them from.
well, you have to ask Stan Kroenke, man.
I know. He's supposed to be out. Are they selling it, the whole damn thing or something?
Well, they want to sell it to that Ek guy, that Swedish dude.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So basically, what I heard is that the Kroenkes won't sell Arsenal for less than $2 billion,
Pound.
or yeah,
Pound.
whatever the poundage is.
Yeah. Jesus.
And this guy, the Swedish, the
Swedish guy has a $2 billion. Where did he get it?
Well, he owns Spotify.
Oh, okay. That guy.
So the Swedish guy, he owns Spotify.
Yeah.
And he wants to buy Arsenal because he said he is a lifetime fan.
Spotify wants to raise prices too.
Well, that's why they want to raise prices, because he wants to buy Arsenal.
He doesn't have enough cash.
Not readily, no. So he raises the money for subscriptions.
Nice.
And then quickly. He says quickly, because he wants to raise enough capital to buy Arsenal.
Nice.
Because I read that he's worth £4 billion.
Yeah.
And to buy Arsenal would be £2 billion.
Jesus, half of his fortune.
So that's why he doesn't want it to be half of his fortune. He wants to make it only like a fourth of his fortune.
That's good.
Yeah, so he wants to buy Arsenal, but so Stan Kroenke is just waiting for a £2 billion offer, basically.
I see.
Yeah.
Oh, he said he'll sell it, right?
Well, it's not sure. It's not confirmed that he wants to sell it, but if it's in that price range, he's willing to negotiate, they say.
If the price is right.
Right, money talks. So
exactly. Jesus.
So he's saying that he's not willing to sell now. That's the
latest
news.
Right.
But $2 billion is attractive, so he might sell it.
Damn.
Yeah.
Jesus.
So I don't know. I
See,
mean,
everything's on sale. So this is on sale. No, it's on sale. How much? Name the price.
Exactly. So everything's sellable. It just depends on who wants to buy it.
Exactly.
And if you want to sell it.
Right.
So the thing of it is, see, here's the problem, right? Because Stan Kroenke, he owns. See, here's the thing, right? Stan Kroenke, he's American, so he owns Arsenal. Manchester United, the Glazers own Manchester United. The Glazers are American.
Right.
The guy who owns Liverpool is from Boston. The Fenway Group, they own Liverpool. Right. I think the guy from Tottenham is also American. Chelsea, he's Russian, Abramovich, right? But those teams, they wanted to join that Super League, you know?
Yeah. What's all that about?
Well,
it's not going on anymore.
No, because the fans protested it.
Yeah, right.
Well, what it was about, basically what they wanted to turn it into was something like the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like the NFL, meaning that whether you're first place or ninth place, it doesn't matter, right? You get to you get to compete in the next year's competition, right? So basically, the Super League was something similar. These American owners, apparently 3 years ago, these owners got together and said, we want to endorse this Super League. Mm-hmm. And what the Super League is the top teams from Spain, England, Italy, in
Right,
Germany, I
right. I
think.
know. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, right.
Yeah. And what they
And
wanted to do, yeah. So what they wanted to do was make it a like a franchise. So whether you whether you became first or last, it didn't matter. You would still be in the Super League the next season, you know?
right,
The problem with that was where the fans had problem with it is that what happens to the other teams? Like for example, West Brom, right?
right.
So what happens to them? They're gonna be playing in the Premier League or what? Is the Premier League gonna exist or like what happens when Bayern Munich joins the Super League? What's gonna happen to like Hamburg? Do you know what I
Right,
mean?
right.
So because they're not going to be competing so hard in the league because they're going to be part of this Super League, and whether you
Mhm.
come first or last, it doesn't matter. You're still going to be available in the Super League.
Again, playing all over again. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So, like, you
Right.
remember that conversation we had, like, I don't know, 9 years ago, where you heard a conversation or an interview with the owner of the LA Clippers, and they asked him, "Why do you own the
Oh,
LA
sure.
Clippers? They come in
Yeah.
last place."
Right.
And he said,
Because
and
there's
the
so
owner
much
said,
money.
exactly.
Right.
So that would be the same with the Super League. It would be asking like, hey, I don't know, for example, Barcelona, why are you coming in eighth place? I don't know. Doesn't matter. I'm still making billions.
Exactly.
Yeah. So the fans didn't like that because it kills the competition of the own domestic leagues.
Right.
So it's not based on competition anymore. It's more based on making money. And that was the problem,
Hmm.
which I think is fair. I think the fans should, because it's not like MLS, right? If you're fucking Chicago Fire, if you're Chicago Fire and you come in 16th place, who gives a fuck? You're gonna be in the MLS next year.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that was the issue, right? So if Arsenal comes in 16th place, or or Chelsea or Manchester United, it doesn't give a fuck because you'll be in the Super League next year.
Right.
So it kills
Well,
competition.
well, it'll kill competition among those places, but if it makes money, I don't know. That's what they have to decide. It wouldn't kill the Super League, so who gives a fuck if Bayern Munich doesn't play in it? There will be somebody will win that league behind them, you know. So be a Bertha wins it. I don't care.
Well, right, but I think the fans didn't like that, so they didn't agree to
Uh,
this franchising.
mm,
And the other problem with that is with the like with the Super League, for example, let's say Slavia Praha can be in the Super League, right? They joined the Super League, but here's the issue too, because it's a franchise. It could be Slavia Praha, but they could be playing their matches from Copenhagen.
right.
Do you know what I mean? They could still be Slavia Praha, but they're now playing in Copenhagen, not in Prague. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sure.
Yeah. So it's the same like in the US. Like, for example, you could be LA Galaxy, but you would be LA Galaxy because you're a franchise, but they can also move you to like Nebraska. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah,
So you could be
true.
LA Galaxy, but your home games are in Omaha, Nebraska.
Right.
So that's what they were saying too. That was the
Yeah.
fans were saying. Like you could be Slavia Praha, but your home games would be in fucking Bali, Malaysia. You
Sure.
know what I mean?
Right, right.
It doesn't matter. They can move the team wherever they wanted to. So you
Yeah,
lose
right.
identity.
True. Yeah.
Yeah. So so the fans protested that, right? Because
Oh,
it could be Arsenal, Chelsea. Everybody knows Chelsea. Chelsea is from Chelsea, London. But Chelsea could be in fucking Toronto, Canada, and still be Chelsea, London. Do you know what I
yeah,
mean?
sure. Yeah, yeah.
So all the fans protested that because the franchise could allow for that to happen.
Yeah.
Can you imagine Stamford Bridge with no people, but it's in fucking Toronto, for example?
Right.
So what would happen to Stamford Bridge? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
So that's why the fans were saying it's the death of football or soccer, because it wouldn't have these like places. The club could be anywhere in the world and still be Chelsea.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
So
crazy, man.
completely.
Yeah.
So so I didn't really agree with the Super League
Right. Yeah.
in that way.
That's true. If they can do that, then it would be just a money machine. Then they can create their own teams then. Why they don't
Right.
create new teams?
Well, that's what they were thinking too. Because think about it like this, okay? Like Bayern Munich, right? They're from Munich. But with this Super League, they could just say, fuck Bayern Munich. Bayern Munich could still be in Germany, but we're going to create a Bayern Munich from Tokyo, for example. And that would be Bayern Munich as well. And they
Right.
would be able to compete in the Super League. So that you would have two Bayern Munichs, essentially. One from Germany and one from Tokyo. But it would still be Bayern Munich, and you would be watching them in the Super League.
No, why if they think that make so much money, why does it make, what does it call? I don't know. Uh, Chernobyl. It doesn't matter. Why is it? Why don't they create new names like the league in US? Now do you have 20 leagues, 20? Why don't they create new names, new league, new everything?
Oh, you mean like, for example, like a Chernobyl FC in the Super League?
Right.
Well, because they want to make as much money as possible, so they want to keep that name, like Barcelona. But
Right.
you see, but the Barcelona could be from fucking Chernobyl. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right.
So, so it would be everything Barcelona, everything. The
Right.
colors, the logo, but they're from Pripyat in Ukraine.
Yeah. Right.
You see what I'm saying? Because they can put it wherever they
Yeah.
want.
Sure. Right.
So, right. So they would have a Barcelona team with the best players or whatever, but they'd be playing in Ukraine rather than in Spain.
Yeah. And they're creating like new league whatsoever, and call them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 teams. Just numbers wouldn't make that kind of money.
Right, exactly.
Hmm.
So you wouldn't be able to have like a Kiev FC,
Right.
but you can have Liverpool based in Kiev. Do you see what I'm saying?
Right.
So it'd be a Liverpool FC, all that red jerseys, the same
What's
logo.
about the players? Where would they live?
In Kiev. Yeah.
Oh, that's stupid.
Right. So like,
why would they agree on that?
They wouldn't.
Players. Yeah.
Like, so for example, the Dodgers, the baseball team?
Right.
The baseball team, the Dodgers, they started in Brooklyn as the Brooklyn Dodgers.
Right. They moved them.
Yeah, sure, because they became a franchise. So what the franchise owners decided to do is like, hey, fuck, LA is more attractive. So now we're the LA Dodgers. But they're essentially from Brooklyn.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So the owners just decided to move the team, the name, to LA. So they can do that. They say, well, LA Dodgers, we don't fuck that. We want to be the San Diego Dodgers. So they move them to San Diego, right? So this team can move where the fans didn't like it, because the team can move anywhere. So it could be like, so Barcelona in 1 year is in Kiev, but Kiev can't keep up with their obligation to keep in the Super League. So they say, well, we need to keep Barcelona. Let's move them to fucking Oslo. So now they're still Barcelona, but they're playing in Oslo.
Right. That's stupid to me.
Me too.
So I don't know. I wouldn't go for that.
That's why they complained, these fans. They protested, because that's what could happen.
Right. Exactly.
Barcelona is from Barcelona, Spain, not from Oslo.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? But they didn't care about that. They just wanted the Barcelona the name as a franchise to be
Sure.
wherever they wanted to be.
Right.
So they could be Barcelona, but they can be playing in like Portland, Oregon. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah,
That's bad.
that's bad, dude.
Okay,
Oh,
dude.
okay, man. So we're
We
coming
can
up
wrap
on.
it up.
Let's wrap it up, man. So, anyways, do you want to promote anything or say anything?
Uh, no, I think we said it all, my friend. Let's see how it goes.
Yeah, man. Let's just let it
Let's have a
brew.
tester. Yeah.
So, when's the next time we can do a podcast, man?
Well, I'll be out of town for a couple of days, so
Right.
we'll be back, set it up something again.
That sounds good, man.
Yeah.
So, anyway, always a pleasure to have you on the podcast. It was a good
Really,
conversation.
thanks.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so we'll catch everybody on the next episode of the State of Emergency podcast. This is a raw, unedited conversation, our ideas, and it's been fun, man. Thank you for joining me.
Sure.
Yeah. All right, man. So we'll see everybody on the next episode, man. Peace.